This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com. The only place to be in your pop culture world.
Come on. We call it the place to be. The place to be, yes, it's the place to be. Then I shall be there.
It is contagious. It is the place to be, and we are live each and every Monday.
Do you actually need a camera for tout, or is it like part of the program?
Yeah, I like big dick myself. I was just kidding.
Man, you see, in the place to be.
Do you listen at all when I speak on the show?
I'm not the one who thrives on whining about carriages that are 3 inches from my fucking car.
So if it's too much for you and your big cock of the walk Knights of Columbus fat cat
when does it end,
to bring
JR?
the carriage back to the fucking thing, then what do you want? What do you want?
When does it end?
You're making the poor guy making minimum wage while you're sitting there with our Mento going through the coffer. Party people in the place to be.
5 years. 5 years! We've been doing podcasts. And we have this. This is trash.
It's not Austin in LA. It's not Cabana in Chicago. It's not Conrad down in Alabama. Place to Be Nation presents Scott Criscolo and JT Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
To do worse than Josh Richer.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I'm your host, JT Rosero, coming at you live here on this, I don't know, whatever evening. Scott Criscolo, how are you?
It's like the 34th of May, 11-teen, whatever. The day ends in day. Do we even know anymore?
It's all the fucking...
Hello, JR. How's it going? Welcome, PTB, to 553 of the longest running episodic, doesn't matter what day of the week it is, motherfucking gold standard. And he'll be on tonight, amongst with another slew of dignitaries. Another loaded show tonight in terms of talent.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a bounce here, maybe toward the very end of 90, even though the middle to late end of 90 has been quite shaky. But we'll see if we finish strong, as PTB former luminary once said. Yes,
that is true. But before we dive in, how are you? You're well? You sound good?
Sure.
Everything all right?
Yeah, doing all right.
You're living like the rest of it.
Yeah,
we're all breathing still.
Slightly depressing. I mean, normally this would have been our biggest week of the year, Scott. This would have been St. Mary's week kicking off Sunday night. I did drive by. They have the Italian flag banners hanging, so there's a little bit of symbolism there. But it's kind of weird. It's definitely odd. This is the first time since '06 I'm not having a cookout this weekend. So
yeah, it sucks. Really? What do we do in '06?
Well, I meant that was the first year I did it. So.
Oh, the first year you did. That's
first
right.
time since '05, I should say then. That there is none.
Yeah.
I've done it every year since the summer of '06. There's been one every year.
Yep. Blows. Big time. But in any event, we do have a show, and it's awesome. Why don't we bring in the third member of the team tonight?
Okay. He is the host of the Sportscasters Podcast, the co-host of the Adams Division, and you hear him here quite often. He's one of our most regular guests. That is Steve Bennett. Steven, how are you?
Hey, fellas. How you doing? Three paisans on the podcast tonight. Doesn't make up for the loss of your annual Italian Heritage Cookout and celebration, but I did watch The Sopranos last night, where Paulie has the big street festival and they don't pay for the hat, and everyone's mad that there's no hat. So I guess this is your year for no hat.
If only it was just a hat that was involved in being missing and not the whole party. But I appreciate the sentiment, Steve, as always, and welcome back. And we're here to close out the year. It's been a very interesting year. You were last with us when here? Very early, right? April. Looks like April of '90 you did the MSG.
Yeah. Yeah, it was my worst show that I've done with, the show was the worst of all the house shows I've done with you guys. So we'll see if there's a bounce back.
Well, you actually
I had a
also
really good stretch, some good ones.
You also opened the year. You did the 1:15:90 MSG back in September of last year. So you're bookending 1990 for us.
Oh, very nice. I love this show because I feel like if I grew up in New York City, I would have got tickets to the Christmas MSG house show every year in perpetuity, and would have always been at this show on winter break. But I grew up in Western New York, not the city. But I'm excited to do this one.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool tradition they had going on there. All right, Scott, you want to kick us off properly?
Yes. For the final time of 1990, let's go to old 4 Penn Plaza. And that is, of course, Madison Square Garden in New York City. The date, December 28th, 1990. It is Christmas week, which means we always have a great show at Madison Square Garden. They usually load the show up. Well, not always.
We've had some rough December outings. That's usually the Sheriff Pete slot, but
yeah, that's true. They try not to, but on this night, actually, I think they did pretty good. The boss, Mr. VKM, did not split the roster into thirds, but split into halves. So the other half of the roster was at pretty close to the area. Old Hershey Park Arena in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Mr. Bennett, home of the Bears of the AHL.
Sick place. I worked a hockey school there, and I remember we had like the hockey school at the end of the week on Friday. They'd do a game, and we were joking like, "Oh, lots of tickets available because it's this huge bowl." It's the oldest standing hockey arena in North America right now, indoor.
Yes, they don't play there anymore though. The Bears,
no,
they play at the Giants.
Yeah.
It's definitely still there, but they play at the Giant Center.
Yeah, they have a beautiful arena now.
Yeah,
that place is awesome.
Yeah, well, I think the Bears are the oldest AHL team. I think they started in 29 or 30 or something. Yeah. So anyway, that's where the other half of the roster is in Chocolate Town. Here is your card. Shane Douglas pinned Buddy Rose with a flying cross body. The Barbarian defeated Dustin Rhodes. Haku pinned the British Bulldog with his feet on the ropes. Kind of a shocker there, JR, because we've seen...
Seems kind of stupid to me, yeah.
It is kind of fucking dumb, to be honest with you. The Legion of Doom defeated the Orient Express and Mr. Fuji in a handicap match when Hawk pinned a new member of the Orient Express. It is not Sato! He is gone. We will talk about this new member down the line when they make a debut on our show. The Big Boss Man pinned Bobby Heenan. Demolition defeated our World Tag Team Champions, the Hart Foundation, via countout. Kind of weird, where people drinking
what a weird show. Yeah, that's awesome.
I know where they drinking the peanut butter out of the Reese's machine.
Fucking Augustus Gloop booking the show. Drinking the show right out of the river.
Hurry up, I'm starving. Jake the Snake defeated Rick Martel via disqualification after Martel sprayed Roberts in the eyes with arrogance. And in the main event, this one, our World Wrestling Federation champion, the Ultimate Warrior, pinned Randy Savage clean.
What an
Bailey
odd
shots or something.
Yeah, maybe just I don't know what's going on. I would say maybe like a holiday, so they send the fans happy kind of deal, but the other stuff wasn't, with Haku winning and Demolition winning. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, very weird.
Odd
very
show.
Strange. I think we didn't get that.
Maybe like one of those
what
rib shows where they're like ribbing guys or something. I don't know.
Maybe rib shows. That's probably what they did for that time of the year. All right. What do we have for news and notes, Chair?
Well, sadly, as we mentioned, we do have no Herb Kunze Tidbits tonight.
Oh, no.
But this is our last show without him. He will be back and strong for our next episode. That said, Mr. Bennett, do you have any favorite Herb Kunze Tidbits from 1990 that you've been listening to the show? I know you're a loyal listener.
Yeah.
I know you've been on a couple episodes. This is your third of the year. Any in particular that stood out for you?
You know, I love it so much more when he's just so incredibly wrong. And I don't mean that as like a taking a shot at Herb or anything like that. I just love listening to these like outrageous rumors in retrospect, that just don't even come close to happening. I can't think of a specific one off the top of my head, but I always giggle when I'm listening to them when you say like, and this is gonna happen, and I'm like, no, that didn't happen at all, not even close. But so that's what I love about the notes, which I still laugh that you even found them. Like I had no idea they even existed.
Oh yeah, they definitely did.
Oh, they're amazing. I've definitely read them all like 4 or 5 times in my life. Like every few years I go back to them. For a while they're like my go-to, like at work between like when I was doing like phone stuff, like in between phone calls I'd read 1 or 2, and they're fun. And to your point, like it's not him getting it wrong, right? This is just like mishmash shit he's hearing, which makes it cool, like you're saying, that this was the dirt sheet of the time, this was the rumor mill of the time, like this is what was out there. And it's funny to see. Obviously hindsight turns a lot of it around, but who knows if some of that stuff was real? Who knows how much of it was just games of telephone getting mishmashed as they were going from Meltzer to Keller to these guys and whatever else was going on. But it's been definitely a little black hole without him these last few episodes. But Luckily, there's quite the vault and archive of tidbits still to come. So we'll dig in.
If you Google him, the first thing that comes up is like his office number and everything. You guys should call him one episode. Just like cold call him, see how he's doing. Or
see if we
maybe
get him on the show.
If he wants to come on the show. Like,
I think he still teaches.
Yeah, University.
I think he still teaches too.
Yeah.
I think he does.
Well, he is probably going to be teaching from home this fall, so maybe we can get him on.
Imagine meeting his
class. Hey, we got CRZ. We can get all of our heroes.
That's true. CRZ is much more public. All right. So here else is what's going on since our last show. On the December 1st Superstars, they had an update segment focusing on Kane the Undertaker and his surprise debut at Survivor Series. We've heard this name mentioned a couple times. A week later on Superstars, we had the debut of Honky Tonk Man as a color commentator alongside Vince McMahon and Roddy Piper. He'd hold that role for a little bit. Dustin Rhodes was the guest of the Brother Love show, which Ted DiBiase and Virgil interrupted. DiBiase tried to buy Dustin off, saying he could be just like Virgil. During the segment, DiBiase twice insulted Virgil and at one point had him clean both his and Brother Love's shoes. Rhodes eventually threw the money out of DiBiase's hands and was double-teamed until Kerry Von Erich made the save. The announcement for the first 20 participants were announced in the Royal Rumble. So pretty early out here. It was about 6 weeks. We're already get 20 names for the Rumble. 2 names that are announced, so we'll see if they make it there. I don't think they will, but initially are Andre the Giant making his apparent return and the Honky Tonk Man. So we'll see if they both survive. I think Andre gets mentioned a couple times, and they must have been pretty bullish that he was going to be healthy enough to come back and be on that show. Obviously, that doesn't quite work out. He does return in 91. And it seems like they did have plans for him to wrestle at some point in 91, the way they handle him. But it would have been cool if he made that like one last Rumble appearance.
I agree. But I mean, obviously to this point, his arthritis and his condition and all that was just getting rough. I don't know. I mean, Andre, obviously one of the prouder guys in the business, but I mean, I think it was safe to say that by this point in his life, even walking was tough, much less wrestling. And in 1991, we'll see that. So they were very they were hedging their bets, I think, more than they probably should have for Andre. Great
new book about him too is out, called The Eighth Wonder of the World, and they touch on this period actually. And I have a copy next to me that I could give away. If anyone wants it, email me, thesportscasters@gmail.com. I'll send it to you.
Paying it forward. We like that, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe make a gimmick out of it, Steve. Maybe we won't get hasty. I know we've talked about it. We'll see what we can do. I actually have a copy as well. Mr. D'Amato's like Santa when he comes and visits. I never see him leave me things, but then when he leaves, I look over and there's stuff on my little table. He leaves me some magazines, and he left me a copy of the Andre the Giant book since he finished it. So I'll be checking it out as well. But that's cool that they talk about that time period.
Yep, it's very well done. It's a great book.
All right, the next day on Challenge, Orient Express defeated Ron Cumberledge and Mario Mancini when Tanaka pinned Mancini with a German suplex to a bridge following a sidekick from Kato. This is Kato's television debut. Scott, that's who you were inferring earlier, played by Paul Diamond. So Sato has ridden off into the sunset. I believe he pretty much retires from in-ring action and heads off to do managing and other stuff elsewhere, I believe. Does he go back to AWA?
He might. And then I think he goes to Japan, and then we obviously see him back here later in the decade. But I think he goes to AWA. I'll double check that. I know that he goes to Japan for a little bit.
No, it looks like he's not. No, he wrestles his last WF match in 91, which we know that comes later. He wrestled for War, did some stuff in 93, and eventually goes back here. It doesn't really mention much. AWA is actually pretty much done by this point. Anyway, I don't know why I even brought that up. I don't think he'd be heading back there. So anyway, that's it for Sato. Kato is now Paul Diamond, who had been doing, I think we saw him at least one MSG, Scott, under the hood, but under his regular name is Paul Diamond. Pretty much Jobber to the Stars stuff. And him and Tanaka obviously teamed in AWA as Bad Company, a very well-regarded team. So they stick them back together here, which begs the question why they didn't just do it from the start. But I guess they wanted to have Sato, who looked a little bit more authentic for the gimmick, versus the masked Paul Diamond. But here we are. Also on 12/11/90 Superstars tapings in Tampa, Shawn Michaels and Marginetti defeated Chuck, Austin, and The Genius. This is a very infamous match, of course, where Shawn Michaels pinned Austin with a flying fist drop after a botched rocker dropper from Jannetty. Austin prepared incorrectly, and that resulted in a broken neck. As a result, the match was never televised. Austin sued and beat the WWF in one of the most highly publicized cases in the mid-1990s. And that was an iffy one because he did take the move, improperly. He tucked his head. He shouldn't have, but he actually got like a huge settlement, right? I think it was like $26 million.
Yeah, he got a decent amount. Yeah.
Is that in the Andre?
Yeah, I don't see any getting back to Santo.
The tag team Bad Company used the entrance music of the song Bad Company from the album Bad Company by the band Bad Company.
Bad Company. all great, by the way.
What were you going to say? Sorry, you were taking it back to something.
No, saying, it looks like Sato wrestled that match in 91, and then he went to War. Let's see. Yeah, bounced around a little bit. He would wrestle a match for War in 1992, and then
if you're looking at it,
okay, yeah, so he's bouncing around. Yeah, he's bouncing around.
All right, so Austin ended up suing in January 93 and 94. He was awarded $26.7 million on that due to that botch. Jannetty had to pay $500,000. WWF appealed the ruling, eventually got out to a settlement of $10 million, and then they began just using experienced contracted wrestlers. So it's funny because there is a tonal shift in their TV presentation when it comes like in 94, 95. You see much less of these just random guys popping up, and this obviously was a driving force as to why. So around that time, they started using more of the Barry Horowitz, Reno Riggins type dudes that had been trained and been around for a while, and other guys that they brought in from other local indies, Omega and stuff like that. We see less and less of these dudes that have been around in the 80s and 90s that look like they literally pulled off a construction site and threw in the ring.
Those guys are great, though. They'll be missed.
They will. And Chuck Austin not sucking his head right. Messed it all up. December 15th, Superstars announced that the Ultimate Warrior would defend his WWF Championship against Sergeant Slaughter at the Royal Rumble. So pretty but quick come up for the Sarge, who really just been dealing Nikolai Volkov and starting to battle Jim Duggan here. And now he is all of a sudden the number one contender for the world title at the Rumble. I remember this actually got spoiled for me a bit on the WWF magazine came out like right before this, and it had it announced that Slaughter was getting the title shot. I was like shocked. I remember getting the magazine. I think it was even on the cover, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like Sergeant Slaughter's challenging for the title, and then it was announced like right after. So, but big moment there for the Sarge. We also got the first vignette promoting the return of Jacques Rougeau as the Mountie. We're talking a lot about him in the months to come, and this is a very big episode. Not only did Sarge get named number one contender, not only did the Mountie have his first vignettes, but Mr. Perfect defeated IC champion Kerry Von Erich with the Perfect Plex to regain his beloved Intercontinental title for the second time at 6:37 when Ted DiBiase had paid off Howard Finkel to be the guest ring announcer, hit Tornado with the belt. Moments after Perfect took the Tornado punch. Earlier in the bout, DiBiase had also shoved Von Erich face first to the post. And of course, this plays off of last week on the Beloved Show when Tornado made the save for Dustin Rhodes. So DiBiase gets his revenge, and it potentially looks like a new feud is maybe on the horizon for DiBiase with Kerry Von Erich. And then they pulled the IC title off him very quickly, cut it back on Mr. Perfect. So it really looks like they did it for the pop. Realized maybe Von Erich was a little shaky. Let's get it back to Perfect.
Sounds right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He only had 1 foot, so
yeah.
As well. How far could he go?
Sometimes he probably felt like he had no feet. So.
All right, the next week on the 22nd, the Royal Rumble report was announced Dusty and Dustin Rhodes would take on Ted DiBiase and Virgil. The Big Boss Man would face the Barbarian, and the Rockers would battle the Orient Express, all at the Royal Rumble. The next day on Challenge, during the match featuring the Warlord, running down 30 participants in the Rumble, Bobby Heenan said Playboy Buddy Rose would be in the match. And also, Greg Valentine's name had been previously announced, and his was not given this time when they gave all 30. So seems like we have some juggling of stars here. But Buddy Rose apparently will be in the Rumble. This is... actually, we'll get to that in a minute. So, okay. That's it for that. So why don't we head inside the Garden for our final show of 1990, our usual Christmas week affair. Gorilla Monsoon, Lord Alfred Hayes, set up the night ahead. Send us to the ring for our opener, and that is Coco Beware taking on Black Bart. Quite the opener on tap here as Bart still lingering around, facing Coco, who's ebbing and flowing, as always, up and down the card. Bart's a pretty tall drink of water when you look at him next to Coco. Coco works the arm early on as Al says Earthquake and Dino Bravo are the most devastating team he's ever seen. Bart goes to the gut, but Coco comes back with a flurry to drive Bart to the floor. Bart comes back with a test of strength. Coco busts out with a drop kick and sends him back out again. Bart comes back and takes over, chokes away, and focuses on the throat with some strikes. Al notes that Bart has slowed things down, which is accurate. As accurate as Al's ever been. Bart clotheslines Coco across the top rope and gets a lazy cover for 2. That pisses off Gorilla. Bart goes to a chinlock, continues to pound away, cuts off a comeback, goes back to the chinlock. Coco breaks free, but Bart cuts him down before missing an elbow. Coco tries for a slam, but Bart collapses on him for 2. Gorilla talks up the Rockers versus Power and Glory, mixes up SummerSlam and Survivor Series, says Power and Glory beat them at Survivor Series, which I guess they indirectly did, but I think he meant SummerSlam. Coco hoists Bart up for a suplex for 2, gets a near fall in a small package. Coco fires up, runs through some offense, hits a missile drop kick, and then drops Brett with a nice Ghostbuster for the win. It's a solid little win for Coco. Not much going on, though. Very simple. Bart was very sluggish, but I thought Coco looked good. It was nice to see him get a clean win. Al says Bart is a big carcass, which is a highlight for me. Star and a half, Scott.
Your match time, 10:07. We had some lengthy matches tonight. And balanced the times out pretty good tonight. I forgot Black Bart was even still with the company at this point. I thought he was gone, to be honest with you. Solid opener. Nothing crazy. Coco gets the win. Coco looks pretty good. I got to say, though, and this match wasn't indicative of it, but as I'm looking down the card tonight, we have got a ton of Juice Awards. There could be like a 10-way tie because I think everybody was drinking it for Christmas because there's a lot of jacked up dudes. Even Coco looks a little beefy, but simple opener. Coco wins. Again, I didn't even think Black Bart was with the company anymore, Steve, but no harm, no foul on this one. Oh, my grade. That would help. I believe equal to yours, JR. Let's see. Yeah, star and a half. Again, simple opener, Steve. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, to me, it was like the typical MSG opener. Generic heel versus mid-card face. I was very excited that it was Gorilla and Lord Alfred Hayes. For whatever reason, I just was in the mood for them tonight. It's kind of like the comfort that they bring and putting me back into this time period. Also, I noticed right away I'm watching the 24/7 feed of this, and I was thinking about it. The 24/7 service, it was infinitely better for me than the network has been. Based on what I like and what I'm looking for, I really miss it. Coco drop kicks are amazing. Was reminded of that in this match. He kind of looks like he's training to be in Miyagi-Do or something. Like he looks like the Karate Kid with that headband. And it was a decent pace, and I mean, it was good to see a good, clean finish at the end. And I thought about 2, but 1.5 seems perfect for this. It was perfectly fine way to start the evening off.
Yeah, 24/7 classics on demand, as some may call it. Definitely is it's an interesting dichotomy. I mean, the network obviously has vast more stuff, but to your point, Steve, for guys like you, really more honed in on certain time periods, there was definitely a high value, and I think it flew so under the radar of like Vince and others that they really got away with a lot more. Some of the stuff they would crank out there, they had a lot of cool stuff. Like those Legends roundtables were awesome. They'd do stuff like in March with the March Madness tournament stuff, and they'd have like matchups. And so say like, Steve Austin versus Mark Merrow in the first round, they'd show one of their matches, and then whoever won the match advanced. So they do cool stuff like that. But they showed a ton of the prime times, the old Manias, a lot of house shows, and it was cool. I mean, obviously I still have how many tapes? Got probably 200 tapes.
200 of them, yeah.
Sitting in my closet.
That was fun. I miss you and I. That was one of the fun things you and I used to do. I miss cataloging them. That was a lot of fun. And what are you doing tonight? I've got to roll on this prime time. Got to have
it was like a second job.
197 or some shit. It was crazy.
I mean, I couldn't definitely not do it like with kids and stuff now, whatever. But like that was like a second job. I had to make a list what was coming out what week, and try and tape it. You know, I couldn't just set it and forget it too. Like you had to kind of keep an eye on it. So I'd set it to record, leave, go do something, come back. No, an hour later I had to switch it or whatever. But I somehow managed for however many years, like 6 years, to get as much as I could out of there. So,
yep. Was it September 2005? I think we started August, September.
Yeah, that's when I moved. That's when I moved home, and I got I had Cox or whatever Verizon at that point, and I got I think it was Cox. His Verizon came later, and they didn't actually have 24/7 at first. So
no, it was Cox because remember the guy pissed you off, and then we saw him in line at Armageddon.
We did.
You're like, holy shit, it's a Cox guy, 4 guys away. That was funny. But yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Not to go on another tangent, but I agree with you, Steve. There was something quaint about the classics on demand. I even remember they used to do the one on the website. They used to have like a separate section. You paid like, I don't know.
Oh, that one was awesome too. That was
$4 a month or $5 a month. I enjoyed that. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
They they did themes like they do like WWE Title Day, World Heavyweight Title Day.
That one is like criminally underrated because they had really neat stuff on there. They had all the Saturday nights from like 94 and 95. I think it was, or maybe 95.
Like dollars. It was like $1, like $2 or $3. It was very inexpensive, I remember too.
Yeah, it was great. I missed that too. I mean, I love the network, but the network's just like, look, here's a big thing. It's like a warehouse.
Well, it's the best. I mean, look, nothing's gonna really top it. There's so much stuff on there. But the Classics on Demand, the problem with that was like shit would go away after a couple of weeks. So if you didn't watch it in that time period, it's definitely suited for someone that had the time to fit it in. Like now, I probably wouldn't take as much advantage of it.
My only criticism of the network is that it hasn't focused enough on the WWF's classic content, especially from the Hogan era.
Right.
There's not nearly enough of that, and I would keep waiting for it to catch up, and it just doesn't seem to. And now with like this other thing that has dropped into my life thanks to, a certain person on the internet, sometimes I'm not even sure I need the network anymore, but
right.
I keep it for now, but I don't know.
And it's cheap enough money all in.
Yeah. I forgot I even pay for it, really. Like, I put it on my card when it debuted, and I don't know. I guess I just keep taking the money out, so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, back to the ring we go.
It's criminally short.
And here's the big feud we had been waiting for since Herb Kunze teased it. As Superfly Jimmy Snuka takes on the Warlord. This is a big end of 90 feud that Herb had teased a bit ago. We actually saw them tussle at Survivor Series as well. Warlord is so jacked. He's also solo tonight. There's no Slick. Snuka is loaded up on the juice as well. His hair is stringy. He's got his new tights and boots, too. New look here for the Superfly. Gorilla plugs the Rumble as we get started. Warlord starts with the heavy artillery. Right away, clobbers Snuka with forearms. Snuka catches him with a headbutt and chops away. Warlord comes back with a slam. Snuka comes up and keeps chopping and kicking into the corner where he slugs him 10 times. Warlord shrugs him off and chokes Snuka and just keeps punching at his back. Gorilla says all the luminaries are signed up for the Rumble. Al says he doesn't seem into this match and maybe focus on the Royal Rumble instead. That's Warlord he meant. Snuka mounts a comeback, walks into a big boot, flies over the top rope. Warlord goes outside, runs Snuka back first to the post. Gorilla notes that Warrior will defend against Sergeant Slaughter at the Royal Rumble. Sarge has lined up a big celebration in Baghdad for when he wins. Warlord clubs the chest to keep Snuka on the floor as this drags on. Warlord brings him in, drops an elbow for 2. Warlord's moving like he's stuck in quicksand tonight, just very slow. Grabs a bear hug and sits Snuka on the top rope, but Snuka hits him with a shot to the head, gets a cross body block for 2. Snuka gets a couple shots and charges, but Warlord catches him and falls back into a stun gun, and then chokes Snuka over the top rope over and over until he is disqualified, and the crowd did not like that finish. I don't disagree. Maybe this should have been in Hershey, Scott, with the other fucking stupid matches that we talked about. An awful way to end this dog shit match. Warlord shoves the ref and punches away, and they brawl until Snuka runs him off. I mean, this just felt like it would never end. It was trash, a waste of time. It was bland, it was slow, it was pedantic. All strikes and not even great ones. Maybe 1 or 2 spots, but nothing else. Snuka is so washed, and Warlord is stiff and needs someone motivated to bump for him, like when he was with Tito and others. Just not this. And why is Warlord losing? I don't get it. Like, I know he's probably not going far, but why is he losing by DQ to fucking Snuka? I don't care if it's MSG or Christmas week. This is a load of coal. I went with a grade I rarely give lately, and that is a dud, Steve.
Harsh. Warlord looks subhuman. I mean, ridiculous. Ridiculous. I was watching this. My daughter was in the bathtub, so I was just watching this anyway, so I volunteered to watch in there, and I had my laptop on the toilet. I was sitting on the ground, and all of a sudden she says, "Dad, Snuka's wearing boots." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, he is."
That's right. She
weird.
is into his footwear, yes.
Yeah, she hates that he didn't wear shoes normally, so she was pleased to see him in boots. I was looking at the ref, and if you know the movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, if John Daly was the Arnold role, this ref would have been the DeVito. Like, he looks like the washed up seconds of a John Daly science experiment.
So a pair of science experiments then too, because Warlord is clearly a giant fucking science experiment.
Right. Warlord, I mean, he uses power well, but then all of a sudden the match ended in that weird DQ. I did like how Lord Alfred Hayes and Gorilla were saying Slick's just not here to control him.
Right.
Look what happens. But I didn't understand why, if you're gonna do that, why didn't he just leave Snuka laying? Just go nuts and like they used to do with Shamrock. He would snap and lose the match, and he'd leave a path of devastation in his wake as he went off. I don't understand why they didn't do that. It just didn't. It was stupid. I gave it a half a star. I don't know why.
Too high. It's a half too high.
but yeah, it was terrible. I think I gave it half for the idea of like, oh, he can't be controlled without Slick. That I like that, so that got the half.
Your match time, 8 minutes and 28 seconds that we'll never get back in our lives. I gave it a half star because I felt like it was Christmas week and they were promoting 2 brand new action figures because they looked so misshapen. I thought maybe they were. I thought maybe Hasbro or whoever the fuck had the contract in 1990 was, look at these brand new Warlord and Jimmy Snuka super figures, because they did look fucking misshapen. I mean, Warlord always looks like that. And, of course, Gorilla does his, Warlord hasn't missed a meal lately. So, well, that's what happens when you're fucking bloated full of juice. And Snuka literally looks like he invented back muscles. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened to him, but he looks like, what were those, I think they came out in the mid-2000s, like those super figures, like Batista and all those, and they were, like, really top-heavy and kind of all these extra that's literally what Snuka looked like. He looked like this mound of muscles that, it was a mess. I'm glad your daughter likes the boots because I thought it looked fucking stupid. But and the long tights, I don't know. The whole thing looked idiotic.
And the porn stash.
The porn. Yeah, well, it's Snuka.
He looked ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with, but I think JR's right. I think it's Christmas and Snuka's a garden favorite, so why not give him a throwaway?
Well, then let him win. Let him fight Black Bart and let Coco put over Warlord. Coco doesn't give a fuck.
I don't disagree with you. You're right.
Like, why? If we want to give Snuka the big MSG New York bump, then just let him kill Black Bart in the opener. Not kill, because we know he will. Warlord, by the way, God, I don't know how that guy's still alive. Well, I mean, he is so massive.
He doesn't look real.
You're right.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
I mean, we saw him at Steve, quickly. You and I, JR, saw him. What was it, Rumble weekend a couple years ago? We saw him at the convention, and I'm like, Jesus, how's he still alive? He was a guy that I would have sworn his heart would have exploded. But yeah, no, this match is a mess. But
he's still big. He pops in WCW in '96 for a night, and he's massive there too. So it's not like he was like doing this for a couple years, and then tapered off. But
yeah, no, I don't even know where he was in the middle. But yeah, no, this match is a mess. I gave it a pity half star for.
You guys are too kind.
Combined, it's 1 star too many. But yeah, 8.5 minutes of it was rough. Thank God we have this next match. The first
I'd put that up there. I think it's one of the worst matches we've watched at and we've watched a lot of crap.
Oh my!
At MSG.
That's bad.
Oh, I do. It was so boring. It was just so. It was so boring. I'm trying to. The last dot I gave was. I mean, in October was bad. Was
you and I
Jones versus
SD
Sharp.
And Mike Sharp. That was just badly booked. Anything before that? God.
Oh God, Frenchie and Coco. That was bad back in March.
Yep, I gave. Oh, that's right. When Chad ripped me when I gave Tornado and Buddy Rose a fucking dot on that Saturday event. Oh God. Yeah. No, there's been some. I feel like we haven't done it as much lately, which is funny because the roster hasn't been great. Yeah, that Coco Frenchie match in March is fucking horrendous. But before that, I don't think there's a ton.
All right.
Yeah. So
speaking of garbage, we go back to the Fink, who says he has a treat for us, and out comes the gobbledygooker. And Gorilla and Al get way too excited. Gorilla legit says, "Oh boy!" As he either he's really good at faking, or he was very excited to see this fucking bird. He says he's been thrilling crowds around the country. Al says, "Is he laying eggs anywhere?" And then Gobbledy and Fink dance as Gorilla says, "Now there's 2 turkeys." Again, just. I don't know. Maybe the live crowds were into this. I never was at a show where this thing was live, so maybe this was working. But fine, Christmas hijinks. I guess normally we'd get a midget match in December, but instead we get this year. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
I thought he was gone already. To be honest with you, I thought he was already wiped off the fucking history book by this point. To be honest with you,
the only thing I'll say is I was watching this. Like I said, my daughter was there, and I asked her like what she thought of it, and she said, "Dad, that's not a wrestler." And I was like, "You don't think it's cool?" And she's like, "Not really." So, didn't pop her at all. She was not impressed.
Speaking of Gorilla, what was the last MSG show he did? Like May? What was the last show he did? Because Mooney's done the last couple. Right. We had Tony for a stretch.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah, I don't remember either. It's been a while since I saw Gorilla. I'm like, shit, I haven't seen Gorilla in ages. So, anyway.
All right. Well, back to the ring, thankfully, after that chicken nonsense. This should be a little bit better as the Rockers take on Power and Glory, like Gorilla mentioned earlier. The feud continues to rage on. Hopefully, should wake the crowd up a bit. Talking about gassed and bloated, out comes Hercules. He just looks like a fucking mess. He's huge in the upper body. He's got the big HGH gut going on, and he has his hair slicked back. It's all stringy. Just looks like, honestly, he's just out of breath moving. I like the Rockers' tights, though, purple and green. Kind of different tonight. They attack right off the bell. Al says the Rockers are full of vim and excitement. We settle into Roma and Marty go back and forth as we get more talk about the Rumble. Marty picks up the pace and unloads and tags Sean. We get some fun double teams. Ends in a Sean atomic drop. He pelts away and dives into Herc as he comes to help out. Things break down into a brawl. Sean gets a slingshot double shoulder block to both Power and Glory and a pair of super kicks to drive them to the floor. Herc returns and cuts down Sean to take over with power strikes. Gorilla says Herc has thrived since he dumped Bobby Heenan. Always gets a shot in the brain. Herc keeps slugging away. We get some good heel double teaming mixed in. Sean mounts a comeback, but the ref gets tied up with Marty, and Roma is able to cut Sean down as a result to keep Power and Glory in control. Herc punishes the back but misses a charge to the corner. Marty gets a hot tag. We get some quick tags from the Rockers and a flurry as they work Herc's arm and hit a double elbow. Marty throws Herc to the mat, goes to an arm wringer. Herc goes back to the eyes and now goes to work on Marty. Tags Roma, who walks right into an arm drag and arm bar. Sean comes in. He works the arm as well. Marty's back in. He dodges some comebacks and keeps the arm tied up. Roma finally breaks out and cuts down Marty, and now Power and Glory take over with their power-based offense. They work that for a moment until Marty nails Roma with a clothesline. After diving around the ring a few times, makes the tag, and the crowd is pretty checked out, even on this one. Sean knifes through Power and Glory, but Herc yanks the top rope down. Sean flies out to the floor as we go to our third heat segment of the match. Herc is shit-talking Marty while Roma beats on Sean's back. Out on the floor, Sean finally gets back inside, but the back work continues. Herc goes to a bear hug, which Gorilla says Sean won't quit, so it's just a waste of time. And that's way more accurate than he'll ever know, that comment. Sean punches free, but can't escape the tag, and Roma crushes him with an elbow to the back of the head. Roma goes to a bear hug, and the crowd is stirring a little bit. The bear hug feels interminable. This goes on as Sean eventually pushes free. Marty chimes in and gets tied up at the ref as Power and Glory start double teaming, and Roma then drop kicks Marty to the floor. Herc loads up for the powerplex, but the second rope breaks and they fall, and now things completely fall apart for a minute. They're stumbling around. They're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. Sean falls on Herc with a cross body and tags Marty. He cleans house. Marty gets a good near fall that almost gets the crowd going, and then after some more brawling, Marty gets a small package. Sean and Herc take turns turning them around. And after all that, it's just a near fall. The Rockers hit a double slam on Roma. Sean kicks Herc outside. And Gorilla makes a good point there. Says Herc maybe would not have fallen to the floor if that rope didn't break. Sean goes up top and hits a rocket launcher, but the bell rings for one of the most obvious draws of all time. Once we hit that second heat segment, it was clear where we were headed. They all brawl after for a few minutes to close up shop. That said, I thought things picked up a little bit late, even with the busted rope, and the crowd picked up. But early on, they were checked out completely. Both teams worked hard. We had some sluggish spots. The triple heat segment was different. That was kind of cool. Fine enough draw. It was crazy that, again, for the second time here in the fall of 1990, fall-winter, that the rope broke on the Rockers, just like the Heart Foundation match. Mm-hmm. And I thought this is a baseline match for them, Rockers of Power and Glory. I was kind of hoping for more, maybe as a show saver. But as it is kind of the baseline 3 stars. Not as good as SummerSlam. Fine enough. And I could have maybe seen Power and Glory going over here, as they still had plans for them, but maybe that was already on the back burner. Scott, 3 for me.
3 for me as well, and yeah, you stole my thunder on that one. I'm like, what is it with the fucking Rockers and like ring crews that don't tighten the goddamn bolts? It's like, I mean, it's not. We're not talking about. I mean, we watched a clip. Who was it? Was it Yoko and Typhoon? It was some clip we were watching. I was watching and like same thing. Like, but I mean, we're talking about 2 fucking 500-pound guys. I mean, you know, Herc isn't that big, and it was the middle rope where there's probably the least resistance. So I was just totally perplexed that the fucking rope broke. As I do, guys, first draws. I don't know if either of you watched Check the Time, but JR, what is your? I figure it's a 20-minute draw. So how were they over, under? What do you think?
Oh God, it felt like it was over. So I'm gonna say 22:07.
Okay, Steve.
I'm gonna go under 17-ish.
Okay. 21:11.
Ooh, close.
So they went a minute 11 over. I enjoy the match. Herc is I mean, that's candidate 3 from. I mean, literally, we're gonna have to throw darts to figure out who the most juiced is tonight because there's nandrolone flying all over the fucking place in this show. It's crazy. Or creatine or whatever the hell they were taking tonight. Whatever Zahorian was passing out in 1990. Because I mean, these guys. It looks like 2005 for fuck's sakes. I mean, it's a mess. These guys are all like misshapen everybody's got a gut and nobody can breathe. I mean,
yeah, it's ugly.
It's ugly. Herc's neck muscles. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like a second person. It's ridiculous. I did love Marty and Sean's tights. Yeah, I don't know what the crowd's problem was. Very uncharacteristic to criticize an MSG crowd, but I don't know. Maybe people are it's a Friday night show, so maybe people are maybe they're shit faced. I don't know. Maybe they're walking around cashing in gift certificates or using holiday cash to buy presents or something. I don't know, but the crowd was definitely not at their usual high energy level for an MSG house show, particularly one in December. So yeah, for Christmas. So I was a little taken aback by that. Having said that,
what though? I mean, I don't blame them. Like this has not been much to write home about. It's not always. To me, it's not always the crowd's fault. It's like, yeah, it's Christmas. It's just like there's a million excuses we could make, but at the end of the day, the best match we've seen so far was a long 21-minute draw that really. I mean, it's probably a generous 3, and before that was Coco and Black. I mean, that Snuka match was terrible. The Gobbledygooker, like, we're almost an hour in probably, and we just have nothing to really get excited about so far. I don't blame him for being out the lunch or half asleep.
You got a good point. Usually they at least make some kind of attempt, but usually the crap's not clumped up like that. I mean, I honestly did not think the Gobbledygooker was still here. So when I saw him walk out, I'm like, fuck, really? It's been a month. We get over this. Yeah, 3 stars from me, Steve. I thought it was okay. The Rockers looked motivated. I thought, Herc throwing chairs in the ring at the end of the match was kind of cool. But JR's right. I mean, it's borderline 3. We might have even given it 2 3/4, but I think we're okay with a 3. But there's been better 3s, if that makes any sense.
It's interesting because I feel like I like it more than you guys, but I gave it 3 too. And I don't know, like the Rockers had some crazy mullets going on. You guys are focusing on the bodies a little bit. I was noticing those 2 guys had insane mullets. I thought there was a really great spot where Herc pulled the rope and Shawn Michaels took a nasty bump over the top rope, and it was just timed really well. It looked amazing. It's like a really great spot in the match. I noted, like you guys did, like, wow, the Rockers had another match with the rope breaking. Like, wow, that was crazy. I liked how Al was calling Roma Glory a lot in the match.
Yes.
Like, Glory did this and Glory did that. I like that too. And I thought there was a really good I liked the chaos that was created out of the uniqueness of the rope breaking, and I don't know, maybe that made me feel like in the end that I liked it more than I did. Like I said, the way you guys are talking about it, I feel like I liked it more, but I agree with the grade. I think it's 3 stars. So maybe if you guys did quarters, you guys might have been 2.75 and I would have been still on 3, and maybe that's the difference. But yeah, but I, like what Scott, you said you like the match where they hit Michaels with the chain early better. I agree with that too. But I still liked it. It was pretty good. Good house show match. If I was there, I'd be happy with it.
Not doing quarters when we rebooted in 1985 timeline is one of my biggest regrets of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might. Yeah. I think I've always thought that.
That's it. We got to rewatch every match, Scott, and regrade them all.
Terry Gibbs and
at the end of tonight, actually at the end of 1990, we will be at 889 matches watched in this reboot.
Wow.
85. So from January 85 to December 90, we've watched 889 matches.
Not bad.
It's a lot of shitty wrestling with all these
MSG. When did you start? 90
Yeah.
or 2014? Did this start? 13?
No, it was late. It was like November 16.
November 16th was
shit.
started, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so not bad. Almost about 4 years. It's taken us to get through 5 years of wrestling.
It's a long time.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you. I probably would have been a 275, Steve. I think you're right. This was a match, like most draws that we get on these MSGs, it's one that would have been better if it was like 14 minutes and a little bit less bullshit to get us to 20. I think it pops more.
Like that, you take out that one bear hug that went on forever or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe
Fair
one
enough.
of the 3 heat segments bites the dust. All right, we get Gorilla and Al for a moment to prep the rest of the show. And we head to the ring for our 4th match of the night as Greg the Hammer Valentine takes on Saba Simba. I think we talked about him briefly before, Scott. Portrayed by Tony Atlas. And this is his first MSG appearance in 4.5 years. and it's also his last MSG appearance. And that is it. He gets one here. Of course, he had. We saw him not too long ago. What was his last MSG house show? Probably 87-ish, 88 maybe he was in there. We saw him in MSG.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, you're talking about the match.
Actually, it looks like he was in World Class by January 87, so maybe it was 86. Yeah, I think 86 was the last time I saw him, so it's been a bit. Okay. Worked in Puerto Rico a bit, then he comes back here. He actually hangs around through most of 91, even though he's not really on TV much.
Well, he's definitely in Puerto Rico because he was there when Bruiser Brody got killed. So
right.
Yeah, he's definitely in Puerto Rico on that stretch.
So he's there for a bit in 91. He's kind of off and on, not too much, and then he's gone by the fall. We will see him once more, so I guess we can talk about it then. But this is it for us in MSG. So he's out. And out comes the Hammer with Jimmy Hart. He's back to his blonde hair, and he's solo. So it looks like not that long after the Survivor Series, Rhythm and Blues is dead. That brief tag team title feud where they were the top contenders. And it looks like they've really transitioned both of them, Honky into the booth for the most part, and now Hammer back to his blonde locks and singles run. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get the hot promo like we did in 88 when he was all happy to be on his own, getting rid of Dino Bravo. But anyway, out comes Saba, makes his MSG return, like we said, goes right at Hammer, backs into the corner. Hammer begs off. Saba lands a few shots, but Hammer whiffs on an elbow drop, and Saba chops away. Saba hits a scissor kick to the back of the head, and Hammer bails to regroup with Jimmy. Al talks about Saba's head. Gorilla says that doesn't necessarily mean a bigger brain. Hammer goes to the legs and takes Saba down and goes to a seated chinlock. He breaks free, unloads a flurry of strikes and a clothesline. Hammer cuts him back down to stomp away, focusing on the chest. Saba tries to push back into control, but Hammer takes it down with a drop toe hold and does the laziest leg lock ever. Like Rich in WCF in my backyard level lazy leg lock, just laying on top of him. Saba's like just laying on his stomach, and Hammer just pulls his leg up. It's just awful. Gorilla says he tickled Saba's feet if he were Hammer, which was an odd comment. I guess he thinks that would force Saba to submission, but knowing Tony Atlas, maybe he'd like it. I don't know how that far the foot fetish goes with Tony, if it's his or included. Hammer goes for a figure four, but Saba blocks it. Saba comes firing back, but drops his head. Hammer drops an elbow on him and then gets a near fall. Saba comes back again with chops, runs Hammer to each corner. Saba walks into a clothesline as Gorilla says Saba's prone to lapses. Hammer randomly throws the ref, and Jimmy comes in and tries to hit him with the guitar, but he hits Hammer instead. Hammer slowly falls, and Saba gets a DQ win and another fucking disqualification. We've had 4 matches, 2 DQs, and a draw so far. Awful. Hammer slowly gets up and he's bleeding as Jimmy tries to talk him through it. Hammer wants to beat up Jimmy, but Jimmy runs away. Saba just showed up, let Jimmy cost Hammer and have him win, and that gives Hammer his issue still. Like, why can't we just do that? Crowd pops for the announcement, and post-match at least, Gorilla name drops the dreaded Rosati sisters. This is really boring. Saba did not show much at all. I mean, whatever. They wanted to give Tony Ellis the gig, I guess, but it's not going to go far. Hammer seemed very checked out, too. No heat. The crowd is just completely gone. I went 1 star, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Tony Atlas's career is it's just too much too soon. You know, look, this is what I thought when I seen him in this outfit. Let's say you were on YouPorn and you accidentally clicked on, like, a Flintstones theme porn. Like, that's what I imagined they'd be dressed up like. Like, he looked ridiculous.
Especially the furry, ankle, pad things.
Looked absurd. The outfit was just absurd. The fans were bored. Maybe they were confused. Like, should they be all into? They're just, no one was over. No, it was a mess. It was a mess. The end was a mess. But Hammer did take a hell of a guitar shot there, square in the noggin. But I was bored too. I gave it 1 star, but barely. I was giving Valentine and that guitar shot a lot of respect there, but it was boring.
And I think what I was trying to, I kind of garbled what I was saying, but my point was, like, Saba just arrived, so why does it have to be a DQ? Just like the Warlord thing, like, why can't Jimmy just cost Hammer and Saba gets the pin? Like, are we really protecting Valentine right now? Like, it would add more to if he actually lost versus the DQ to get pissed at Jimmy. So, like, again, just made no sense.
It was a mess.
Yeah. Your match time, 8:29. I gave this a star as well. The last MSG match, JR, which of course we watched, was August 25th, 1986. He lost to Adrian Adonis. He then the rest of 86.
I feel like that match sucked too.
It probably did. After that, he's subbed out for Tony Gurria. for a bunch of shows. Steve Lombardi, Nikolai Volkov. Oh God, we were looks like we were supposed to get on the house show circuit Tony Atlas, Ted Arcidi matches. That would have been juicy.
Like at a slot machine when you pull and you get the 3 cherries across and it's like a big jackpot.
Yeah.
Well, Atlas Adonis has the jackpot from you and Kelly. Dud right across the board. August of '86. I knew I remember that match being fucking terrible.
That's not the first time we did dud for fucking Adonis. Oh my God. In February of '86, we gave Atlas and Barrio a dud.
There you go.
So we had a bunch of duds with Tony Atlas. No surprise. Yeah, this match is hot trash. On a side note, we talked about Honky. Technically, Honky is gone. Mm-hmm. His last match was December 16th at the Meadowlands tag. And then 10 days later, so 2 days before this show, he quit.
Okay. So the Superstar, because he's on Superstars into 91. He because that, we talked about the on-demand, the WWE.com classics. They actually, that was the other thing they had. They had all the 91 Superstars, like late 90 into 91. And
yes, they did.
Honky, I believe, announces right up until the Rumble because he's talking about being in it, like right up until it happens. So they must have taped a shitload, even though he quit, which is odd because they would do the voiceover. So you sure he didn't come back or anything? It's weird that they would have that much audio canned with him until the Rumble.
Well, according to, this is on Graham/Landy. I went to 90 and I went 2 days before. If you go to December 26th, December 16th, 1990, East Rutherford, New Jersey, Meadowlands. Bushwhackers, Brett and the Bushwhackers and the Hart Foundation defeated Hammer, Honky, and then Power and Glory when Brett pinned Hammer. Honky's last match, his last appearance for 6 years, and it says 12/26/90. Honky Tonk Man quit the company.
All right, that's a little bit later, so maybe by then he did enough because the Rumble's the 19th. So I'm pretty sure he announces through the Rumble.
Yeah, so he must have taped a ton, and Vince is like, "Well, I'm using you." He probably had a no compete, so it's not like he could show up somewhere and it would look dumb. So anyway, that doesn't help this match. This match is garbage. It's good to see Hammer back in. It's good to see Hammer back in the blonde hair and the cool robe, and back with Jimmy like he was in '85 when he was Intercontinental Champion. I was a little unnerved by the babyface chants. The last time I saw babyface Hammer was when I was watching Mid-Atlantics on the network, and he was feuding. This was right after the dog collar match, and Piper had left, and Hammer was still U.S. champion. He was feuding with Dick Slater, who was a heel, obviously, because he was the whole thing with the cashing in of Harley's money and all that with Flair. So he was a heel, and babyface Hammer was very unnerving. He would be on TV for a couple months, and then eventually he would end up in here in the WWF. So hearing the crowd cheer for Hammer was a little unnerving, but it was kind of neat, I guess. Hammer's kind of got some respect from the fans for being, being there for a long time and stuff. So, but the match is garbage, and maybe you're right, JR. I was feeling somewhat optimistic, but it really has been a lot of hot shit since we.
It's a rough start to the show.
It really is, yeah. Maybe the back end will be better, but. This is rough. I didn't realize. As I'm watching it this morning, I'm like, this isn't that bad. And then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, actually.
So Graham has Honky's last appearance on that day of the Rumble, January 19th, 91, Superstars. He announced. He's the commentator. So they must have had that taped through the Rumble, and then he bolted. That was taped on December 11th. So.
Yeah, so there you go.
All right.
So, wow, that's a lot of shows. Jesus. Would they tape 8 weeks of shows? Wow.
Yeah, well, through the holidays, I guess, probably.
Yeah, holidays.
Yeah, that's true. But wow, I didn't think Vince would trust 8 weeks worth. Well, now it's funny because his announcer had been not working for the company for 5 weeks by the time he by the time it happens. But anyway.
All right, back to the ring for a big mid-show, I should say, main event, as Hulk Hogan teams with Tugboat to take on Earthquake and Dino Bravo. Really the most hyped match on the card after last month. The feud rolls on. Quake and Bravo are out with Jimmy. Good heat as always. Bravo does a stupid laps around the ring as Quake stomps around. Big pop for Hogan as he and Tugboat chug out. Hogan still has it in MSG, man. They're still into him. He's also still rocking the bob haircut as Al's gushing over him and his legacy. Hulk and Bravo start us off as Gorilla talks about the Rumble again. Hogan wins the power struggle early, shoving Bravo around, cleaning house on all three guys, getting an assist from the Tugger, who tags in, gets a double back elbow from both guys. Tugboat works the arm. Hogan and Tugboat take turns battering Dino until Tugboat misses a charge of the corner. Bravo hits an atomic drop. He tags Earthquake, who misses an elbow drop. Hogan gets a tag, and the crowd is all fired up as Hogan batters him. Wipes out Dino, too. We don't fuck around at all anymore as Hogan slams Quake on the first try. Does not mess around. We don't get the usual try and fail. Hogan buries Quake in the corner, bites his skull, and tags Tugger, who barrels into Quake with an avalanche, cuts it down the clothesline. Tugboat hits the rope, but Bravo clobbers him from behind and gets the tag. Quake and Bravo work the double teams and shenanigans, baiting Hogan in. Quake gets a nice big splash for 2, but Hogan saves. They continue to double up on him. Bravo grabs some sort of odd standing chancery. Tugboat gets a tag, but the ref misses it. We then get the double scoop slam by Quake and Bravo, followed by a Quake elbow. That was a pretty nice series. Quake lines up a splash, but Hogan comes in and runs alongside him before knocking him down the clothesline. That was a funny bit. Hogan gets a tag as the crowd roots him on. Dino comes in too, but Hulk meets him, punches away, hits a big boot, and rolls him up for the win. Hogan and Tugboat pose for a while, but Quake and Jimmy come back out and beat him down after. Jimmy blinds Tugboat with acid powder, according to Al. Never heard of acid powder. Quake levels Hogan with a chair, then drops a splash on him. The officials finally clear them out, and Hogan gets stretchered out just for a moment. Then he realizes what's going on. He jumps off. We get some drama with Tugboat hugging him, helping him to the back. It was very dramatic. I like the long pause before the attack. I thought that was really well done. It really didn't seem like it was coming with all the posing. And this was fine. It was only one short rest hold. Other than that, it was a lot of motion. I thought they did a good job hiding Dino and Tugboat, and Quake's offense on Tugboat looked good, I thought. We got the slam, but Quake stays strong too. Bravo gets the clean loss, and the crowd is hot for this. This was like they made up for all the shit earlier. Really fired up here. And a fun Saturday Night's Main Event style sprint. Hogan does his usual Hogan. So Scott went 3 stars on this too.
I did as well. I enjoyed this match quite a bit. Your match time was 9:24. I have an interesting question here. I actually have 2 questions that I want to ask, and I'll like to ask to all of you gentlemen, both of you. The first one is, we've talked a lot this year, JR, about how really great Hogan has been in 90. I mean, the crowd, he's always gets crowd pops. We've talked about it multiple times. I mean, he's on fire. Like, the crowd is just more into him than I think they had been for a long time, even at the tail end of the 4-year title run.
I think it's commonly accepted, and by me too, that after 6 he's never the same. Like, they kind of pops back up here, but then you kind of remember the end of 91 when things turn. But there is this stretch from SummerSlam at least until Mania where he's just as over as ever.
Yeah,
and I think you think I'd remember better considering that's when I got into him. But it's funny because I just think you think back in your mind and say, okay, after 6 he's never the same. But no, he really does bounce back strong for at least this 8 months or so into the summer of 91.
But when you talk about, I agree, which begs the question, even going back to the Rumble, he was scorching hot, and him and Warrior with the face-to-face, and then the match at 6, and the attack on Brother Love Show. In terms of just popularity and just energy, could this be Hogan's best year since, 86?
Well, no,
87?
87 is probably his best.
87's 80. I think the first half of 87's hot, but I feel like it petered out on the back end of 87. Remember Steve, Andre wasn't around a lot. JR, if you remember, Andre took the whole summer off. So after the big win at WrestleMania 3, it felt like Hogan was spinning his wheels for the rest of the year. The first 5 months of 87, he was red hot, and then he kind of
89 is really good too, though. With all the Savage stuff.
It is, but I feel like he's sharing the wealth. I feel like, I don't know, something about 1990 is this is his most amazing year of crowd energy and just him looking good in the ring. Like everything's fitting for Hogan for the first time, I think, since late 86, early 87, starting the Andre feud. He's just amazing. we've been like, yeah, Hogan's here, big match, crowd's hot, leg drop, posing, next. But now it's like, I don't know if it's because he's with Tugboat and he's carrying this fucking bomb, or I mean, I don't know. I also, and look, my other question involves Earthquake, who deserves a ton of credit for being as good as he is. I mean, this is easily the feud of the year in the company. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it's the feud of the year. And I might as well ask it now. Earlier in the show, it was announced. I mean, you said, JR, that Slaghter was the number one contender, but it was officially said on this show. Gorilla did say it, that it will be Slaghter and Warrior at the Rumble. So that's locked in with the 20 guys. If the whole Iraq War didn't happen and Desert Storm didn't happen, and Slaghter was just this character, why not put Quake in the title match at the Rumble? Have Warrior lose to him, then you get Quake Hogan, the rematch at WrestleMania VII, and the place goes batshit.
I don't know if they do, though. I feel like, unless you kept them apart more, because, I mean, they're pretty much going to have wrestled. We saw them wrestle in April. And then he comes back, and they've pretty much been going since July across the houses. They fought at Survivor Series. We're going to see him in, I guess they wouldn't tussle at the Rumble under that plan. I don't know. I don't know what they would have done.
Because Hogan never gets the upper hand, if you notice. He either pins Bravo,
right,
or there's a schmaz, and Hogan is always on his back.
Well, they fight on the house shows through March. I mean, they go up until Mania on the circuit, so they were definitely trying to keep it burning. Right. I just don't know if it had. But I don't know if it draws at that point again. You'd have to really keep them apart, I think, after SummerSlam to try and draw it
obviously you would have to. No, obviously you would have to adjust things. You wouldn't keep it the way it is. But I really think that this feud has amazing legs, and because every time we've seen them together, even since the count-out loss or the count-out at SummerSlam, Hogan has not gotten anything clean on Earthquake. It either ends if it's a tag, the other guy gets pinned, and then Earthquake beats the shit out of him, and Hogan's getting scraped off the canvas. So I don't know. Anyway, Steve, your thoughts on the match, and what are your thoughts on my two questions?
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I mentioned, like Justin did, that Hogan still gets a huge pop. It pumped me up. Seeing the crowd react that way, I was super into this. It was my first time, kind of a side note, but it was my first time watching a Dino Bravo match since his Dark Side of the Ring episode, and it just made me feel bad for him a little bit. You know, it's just such a sad way for his life to end, and I guess I watched him through a different lens, to use the cliche, I guess, tonight, just because I finally learned more about his story. And also I mentioned that Andre book, and I had one of the writers of that on my podcast, and he was a big part of the Bravo episode, and we talked about it. So just rest in peace to him, and wanted to give him a little bit of a shout. I love this spot where Hogan runs the ropes and does the clothesline and breaks up the Earthquake. I felt like the finish was a little abrupt, but it was really good pace at that point. Like, they really had kind of like kicked into that extra gear. I mean, I love this, but you guys know I'm a huge Hogan mark, and I just had a lot of fun, and I thought about 4. I definitely wasn't going to do 3 because Rockers and Power and Glory were 3, and it's better than that, and I might have done 3.75. It wasn't quite 4, so I just went with 3.5. Thought about, maybe if there was quarters again, I might have went 3.75, but and I really love, and part of that grade is the angle that they set up at the end of the match. At least I looked at it that way. And I thought they did a great job doing that. And I didn't see it coming at all. Just really great setup. As for your things, is this Hogan's best year? Man, you're making me think about it. It could have been, like I said, I love 87. I love 86. 89 is good. The first year and a half is really good. I think it's hard to say
it's his best, just because he does miss the chunk. But in 88 and 89, he kind of misses time too. But
underappreciated, maybe his most underrated year, maybe could work.
Yeah, that's a good word. You could use that, sure.
I remember walking out. I was talking about this with someone recently about walking out of the Sky Dome after WrestleMania VI. I don't know, maybe someone asked me about it or whatever. And what I remember is it being just really quiet. People were bummed that he lost, and I wonder if him losing was good for him in retrospect, and sort of created this resurgence? Did we find some vulnerability in him that we didn't see before? And, because he loses the title and then he gets squished on Brother Love Show. And then there's the letter writing campaign and the big comeback. And, gets us through the year with this. And like you said, Quake is so good. So I wonder if, maybe he just showed a little bit of vulnerability that he maybe hadn't in the past. And maybe that reawoken the spirit and the love that people have for him a little bit. And that helped rally the year. And also, I wonder if Warrior kind of bombing as champion helped too. Did people?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Did people say like, "Wow, we had it. We had it good. We had the guy, and we need to get him back to that point, maybe." And as like your fantasy book there, like you said, you'd have to rework it, but I could see it. I think Earthquake's up to it. So I think they could, if they did it right, it could work.
Well, maybe you just don't do the singles match at SummerSlam, right? So maybe you do the tag, at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I could see that. Sure.
Or do Boss Man if you still want it. If you don't have faith in Tugboat, whatever it is, you could do Hogan and Boss Man against Bravo and Earthquake. Maybe you do that and save the solo. Then they fight at Survivor Series, and then Quake wins the title. Yeah, I think there's a path there for sure if they go differently. But I'm with you, Steve. It could be a little Bruce Hornsby / was it Janet Jackson and ripped it off? You don't know what you got till it's gone. It could have been a little bit of that, where I know we kind of had that with Savage, but everyone loves Savage. It could have been more so with the Warrior. When Savage won the title, it didn't seem like finite for Hogan. When Warrior won, it kind of felt like that could be it.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but when Savage won it, Hogan helped him win it, right? And it was still, the belt was still in the Mega Powers world, so to speak. Yeah, they still controlled that. So I don't think like, again, Savage is much more loved than Warrior and better than Warrior, better champion, and maybe had better people to feud with. But I just, again, sorry to cut you off there, but I think there's a lot to that. Just kind of, maybe there's a little bit of an awakening there.
I don't know. Food for thought. Just a couple of things I was thinking about as I was watching this match. But a great match, though. Great match. 3 stars for me, too.
Sure. Steve, did you talk about the whole? Did you get all your thoughts in? So make sure.
You good?
I got it. Yeah, okay. 3.5 will work.
All right, let's go to take a break then. We'll come back. We'll finish out the rest of this card. We'll do some pop culture, and we'll wrap things up with some awards. Until then, back in like 10 seconds.
What's up, everybody? This is Kevin Kelly, longtime announcer with the WWE, now the voice of Ring of Honor Wrestling. No better place to be than right here on the Place to Be podcast. Make sure you tune in every week.
All right, Nation, we're back looking at the final show of 1990. It's been quite the journey. Started back in September of last year. 2019 was our first one of 1990, our first show, and that was with Steve Bennett, and he's here tonight to wrap up the year. And why don't we quickly talk about what else is going on in the world of PlayStation, Scott? Over on the PlayStation Wrestling Network, which is what you're listening to right now, Highway to the Impact Zone number 3, Logan, Jake, and Sean Kidd, and Lewis Maynard take a look at weekly pay-per-view number 99. Chaps are back with an episode of the Special Relations. They do a special wedding-themed episode. Of course, we'll give a shout-out to our friend Rory, who recently got married as well. So congratulations to you, sir, and listen to that episode of the Special Relations. Newest episode of Senior Video, Rory and Ben go back to the late 80s to check out Hulk Hogan, Real American. Episode 2, Wrestling Chicken Salad, Ben and the gang break down perhaps the biggest pile of chicken, 1995 King of the Ring. Always a fun watch there. Episode 152 of the main event, Scott, you, Brother Nate, and Steve Willie recapped the first half of 2020 in wrestling, and then went back to January 2023, not quite, 2003 for the newest TNA pay-per-view recap. On a great episode of Talking WCW, Jenny, Greg, and Tim bang down the locker room door and talk about the best of the man, Goldberg, and that was a really good listen. If you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend it. And
Yes,
finally, the NWA Saturday special, you and Dr. G brought in Callum McDougall to discuss the fourth spot on your NWA Mount Rushmore. Check out the PTB Nation Pop feed as well. Some great shows that include the Year in Pop, Laugh in Theater, Great Debate, and Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Diamond Conversations, Thing on TV, Piece of the Action, Blockbuster Rewind, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're there, subscribe to these feeds too. Jenny Smith's The Jenny Position, Home of Geek and Sassy, Talking Pop, Freak Out Drive-In, Brother Sister Rewatch Podcast, The Journey Through Infinity, and so much more. As well as the North-South Connection. I bring you that feed along with Chad Campbell and Aaron George. Home of Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, Extreme Three-Way Dance, Jeff Learns Wrestling, The Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, TNA, Never Dies, and more. We'll talk about what's going on much more recently on that feed at the end of the show. Also, we've kicked off our 2020 Stretch Project, determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have until New Year's Eve to research, promote matches, and build your list. Tons of conversation and rules found at facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the Pro Wrestling Only message board. Also on our social media pages, the newest tournament is up and running. The Greatest Song from a Movie tournament has kicked off. Vote for your favorites every day. There are some tough matchups each and every day. There's some brutal ones, honestly. And the key is, we want to focus on voting for the song from a movie that means more in the movie. Not just that it's a better song per se, unless that song just means more to you. It's really about the fit in the movie and what it meant to the movie itself as a tournament option. So that's what we're looking for in that tournament.
I'm just so glad the potato chip one is over. Yeah.
That might have been the most divisive one yet, amazingly.
I can't find any passion for a snack. I'm sorry. Yeah. Like, I was just, voting, all right, I guess I like this snack better. Like, oh, no, Hostess Twinkies lost. Oh, man. I don't know. I'm glad it's over.
It's all invalidated anyway. That stupid nacho cheese Doritos one, so... Can all get fucked. PlayStation.com each and every day. We have new voices, fresh takes, articles, and topics of world of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown and Fox Report and Weekend ODU John Crow, Paulie's perspective, Ben's unpopular opinion, and Matt's Disney live-action journey. Don't forget about veteran columns as well, like Glenn Butler's weekly walk around the web. If you're doing online shopping, Amazon. Be sure to do PlayStation.com/Amazon. It takes you right there and helps us out and no additional cost to you. And Scott, I mentioned we've been doing 1990 since September of 2019. We've been doing this reboot since November of 2016. We've been doing the show since February of 2011. That's a lot of Scott Criscolo to take, to swallow, to deal with. But I do it, Scott, because I love you. And that is also why Stevie B does the things they do. The number one song in the nation tonight's Because I Love You by Stevie B. That takes us into Scott Criscolo's Pop Culture Corner.
Thank you, JR. It's very nice. And Stevie B is very nice. Because I Love You. Great 19... It's typical 1990s pop right there, that song. And that, 4 weeks at number one to this point in this last week of 1990. At number two, one of the most controversial videos in MTV history. Madonna's Justify My Love at number two. At number three, Bette Midler From a Distance. Number four, Wilson Phillips with Impulsive. Number five, Tom's Diner by DNA featuring Suzanne Vega. I thought that was just her. I never even heard of DNA. Yep, that one. Number six, High Enough by Damn Yankees. Love that album. Number seven, I'm Your Baby Tonight by Whitney Houston. Number eight,
Jeff
Freedom.
Jarrett, actually, that's one.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that one. Freedom by George Michael at number 8 from Listen Without Prejudice, Volume 1. Great album. Number 9, The Way You Do the Things You Do by UB40. And number 10, Sensitivity by Ralph Tresvant. So there's your top 10 on the Billboard charts this week in 1990. All right, quick check of the box office numbers in the movies for this week in 1990. At number 11, Freeze, Die, Come to Life. I don't even know what that is, but it made money. Number 11. Number 10, The Russia House. That was Sean Connery. Number 9, Misery. Great Stephen King movie. Number 8, Mermaids. Number 7, 3 Men and a Little Lady. Number 6, Look Who's Talking 2. Number 5, Edward Scissorhands. Number 4, Dances with Wolves. Number 3, Kindergarten Cop. It's not Tatuma. Number 2, Godfather Part 3. And number 1, once again, Home Alone. Pretty good movies on that list. Not bad at all.
Yeah, some big ones.
Pretty big ones. All right. Well, we go from falling down the chimney at Kevin's house to taking the field.
Spend my days working hard on the go.
The clock on the wall too slow.
All right, look, this whole thing's been a fucking fiasco. Like, I've actually had people feeling bad for me. I get messages like, maybe you should stop, not even bother doing it. But I tell them I had a good year a few years ago. It's just a tough season. That happens, even the best of prognosticators. I am down 7 going into tonight, but I'm told already by our guest that if he plays, it's not even going to be fair, Steve Bennett. Why is that?
Well, I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan, and this is week 17 of the season, and the Saints play the last game of the season on Monday Night Football, and they needed to win that game to make the playoffs. And I watched this entire day Sunday, scoreboard watched, all day long. So I know these games, and also, you know, this is a Bills Super Bowl season, and I know what happened very well with the Bills that year because I was in Buffalo for all that, and I just know a lot of these results. Like, I know for sure that the Chiefs and Bears played, for example, and that the Chiefs won because the Bears could have gotten a bye that week, or there was a seeding for that. Then the Saints ended up playing the Bears. So, like, I just know some things about this week. I'm not going in as blind as you are, so it's sort of unfair.
All right, we'll look at this two ways, right? So we'll see what happens with you versus me and your total added on to the other guest total, which is, I mean, it's impossible, I think, for me to win based on what you've said. But we'll see if I would have beaten it, even if I would go solo. We can try that, too. All right, Scott, do whatever you're going to do.
All right, here we go. There were 2 games on Saturday, the 29th. First game, we go to, as Steve mentioned, the aforementioned Soldier Field in Chicago, the Bears hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, JR.
Chiefs at home.
No, Bears are at home.
Bears at home.
The Chiefs are at home. I wish the Chiefs were at home. Okay, so are we giving Steve a chance or no?
Yeah, you can play.
Okay, Steve.
Wait, who did you pick, Justin?
Chicago.
Okay, I just said that the Chiefs win this game like 6 seconds ago. So that was a bad start.
Steve, can you ever just let me do this without just, you know...
I mean, I did say the Chiefs,
jumping
and
in the deep
Scott
end of the
threw his
pool?
weird dust at me, and was like, no, Chicago's at home. So.
Oh, I thought I gave you that one ahead of time, but yes.
I'm going to give it to him. All right, JR thinks I
did say the
cheated.
Chiefs first. I did say the Chiefs at first.
Yes, and JR thought I rigged it by saying something about the Cowboys and Pete Winston. So
Oh,
Chiefs
did,
win
obviously.
21-10.
He definitely helped Pete Winston that night.
All right, well, you're getting that one. I'll give you that one. Chiefs win 21-10 at Soldier Field. The other game on that Saturday, let's go out to Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe. The Cardinals hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. JR, I'm going to let you pick first every time.
Oh, come on. That was my only chance.
All right, no, it's all right.
No,
Steve,
it's
go.
all right. No, it's all I'll pick. Cardinals hosting the Eagles. I'll take the Cardinals.
This is one I don't remember. I'm taking a shot in the dark here. I just don't remember the Cardinals being any good in this era, so I'm going to say the Eagles.
Well, Tim Rosenbaugh did throw for 301 yards for the Cardinals, but the Eagles win 23-21.
I think week 17, maybe. Sometimes a shitty team sneak one in.
All right, let's go to Sunday. Let's go to Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, where the Falcons host the Dallas Cowboys, JR.
I will take... I've been going to the home teams, but I think Atlanta kind of sucks, and I remember you saying Dallas was a little bit better in this year, so I'll take Dallas.
All right, this is one I know for sure that Dallas could have clinched a playoff spot and knocked the Saints out if they won this game, and they did not. They lost to the 5-11 Falcons.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because 2 weeks earlier, Troy Aikman got hurt, so the Cowboys had to win 2 games to make the playoffs with Babe Laufenberg as their quarterback. Falcons 26, Cowboys 7. Let's go to RFK Stadium in Washington, where the Washington, we don't know what their names are yet, take on the Buffalo Bills. Steve.
All right, this is another one I know because the Bills had everything clinched the week before, and they did not play their starters, and they lost the game. 13-3, I think they finished.
I'll take the Bill. No, I'll take Washington.
Yes, Redskins. We'll say for the last time ever in the history of the show, the Redskins win 29-14. Let's go to
Gail Gilbert played. Shout out to Gail Gilbert. I think he played that game.
For Buffalo? Well, Mark Rippon played for the Redskins. All right, let's go to Foxborough, to Sullivan. Was it still Sullivan Stadium or was it Foxborough? Oh, it doesn't matter. Patriots hosting the New York Football Giants. JR.
Look, the Giants always beat the Patriots when they play. That I know, so I will take the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm going to go with the Giants. I don't remember, though.
Patriots went 1-15.
That's right. Peter did say that. I got to start taking notes.
Yeah, you did.
Yes. Let's go to the Metrodome in Minneapolis. The Vikings hosting the 49ers. Steve.
49ers went 14-2, so I don't think they lost this game. I'll say the 49ers.
I will take them as well.
Yes, Steve Young threw for 205. Jerry Rice, 118 from the field. Niners win 20-17. Let's go down to the Orange Bowl in Miami. The Dolphins host Indianapolis. JR.
I'll take Miami.
Yeah, Miami was very good, but they had no chance to win the division. The Bills had beat them, I think, the week before and locked it up, but I still think they win. I'll say Miami.
Dolphins do win 23-17. Let's go to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. The Bengals host Cleveland. Steve.
I have no idea. Cleveland?
I'll take the Bengals.
Okay. Bengals win 21-14.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to the Big Sombrero in Tampa. The Buccaneers take on the Jets. So it's Vinny's current team against Vinny's future team. JR.
I'll take the Jets this time around.
Yeah, I'll take the Jets.
Well, Vinny did throw for 204 for the Bucs, but the Jets do win 16-14. To the Kingdome in Seattle we go. The Seahawks host the Detroit Lions. Steve.
This is another one I know Saints were fighting with the Seahawks for seeding. Was hoping for the Seahawks to lose, but I'm almost positive they win big.
I'll take Seattle.
Seattle wins 30-10, but Steve, the Seahawks were still in the AFC, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, let's go out to the Mausoleum in LA. The Raiders host the San Diego Chargers. JR.
I'll take the Raiders.
Okay. Steve?
I'll take the Chargers to give Justin a chance. I'm not sure.
Jay Schrader throws for 162. Raiders win 17-12.
I don't need your pity, Bennett.
Let's go to Mile High Stadium in Denver. The Broncos host Green Bay. Steve.
I wonder if Buffalo's Magic Man played this game or not. I have no idea. I'll pick Green Bay.
Okay.
I'll take Denver.
Who is this Dillweg? Anthony Dillweg was playing for Green Bay. So we don't even have to give the stats. Broncos win 22-13. To the Astrodome in Houston we go. The Oilers host the Steelers. JR?
I will take... I've picked against Pittsburgh, I think, every time. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to take Houston.
Yeah, I think this is the Sunday night game. I think Houston won.
Warren Moon did not play. Cody Carlson played. He threw for 247. Oilers win 34-14. And finally... Shouldn't even do
I'll take the Saints.
And yeah, Saints win 20-17 at the Dome against the Rams. Jim Everett.
Morton Anderson walk-off.
There you go.
All right, Bennett, sit in the corner. 12-11. Your boy wins the week. The final week of the year. Look at that. See, you said you knew all the games.
Nicely done.
Stepped up.
Go.
And
so that is it for the picks for 1990.
So that'll put the challengers at 69 and me at 63. No, what did I have before?
Not
51
bad.
plus 12, 63. 58 plus 11, 69.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
We will keep tabs on the playoffs.
Really good that week, though.
Yeah.
Those are good scores, 11 and 12.
12 is the best of the year. So I had the highest single week of the year. 11 was the previous high. That's myself had 11, D'Amato had 11, and Winston had 11, and I used Steve. So 4 at 11, only 1 at 12. But I lost by 6 for the year. So there you go.
Not bad. Had some tough ones. Had some tough opponents as the year went on. So there you go. All right, let's go to the NBA. The hardwood, 5 games on this evening. Celtics played. They lost 131-114. To the Hawks. Who's your hoop team, Steve?
Whoever Eduardo Nahara is on. Is he on a team yet, or is he still a child?
I have no idea.
What about Mookie Blaylock? Is he on a team?
No. Yes, I think he was on the Hawks.
Okay, them.
All right, well, they won.
Yes.
So that was it. No other Lakers didn't play. Knicks didn't play. Celtics were 23-5 at this point in the season in 90-91. I didn't think they were that good. I don't remember them being that good. The Bucks were leading the Central at 19-8. The Bulls were 19-9. They weren't even in first place. The Spurs were 19-6, leading the Midwest. But the best team in the league, the 26-3 Portland Trailblazers. How about that? Lakers were 16-9. And finally, quick check of the frozen pond. Usually our guest's team plays on this night, so I can assume the Sabres did play. And they won. Shut out the Blackhawks 5-0. So there we go.
Home or away?
They were at the Odd.
Yeah, I think I was there.
Yeah, they were at the Odd.
Yeah, I'm almost positive I was there.
Any other? Bruins. Bruins got shut out 6-0 in Winnipeg. And the Rangers beat the Caps 5-3. Blackhawks were leading the Norris with 53 points. Calgary led the Smythe with 44. Bruins led the Adams with 47 points. Sabres were in fourth with 34. And the Rangers led the Patrick with 48. And that is it for your final pop culture corner of 1990. Back to JR at the Garden.
All right, and back to the ring we go. No glog of interviews tonight. We head right back into the ring as we have our next match. Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, the former now Intercontinental Champion, taking on Virgil, who is stepping in for Ted DiBiase tonight, who underwent knee surgery. So Virgil back in the ring again, as he has been a little bit here in late 90. We find out, of course, that Ted cost Tornado the title. Virgil saunters out with Gorilla Monsoon. Says DiBiase underwent knee surgery. Virgil's taking his place. Nice pop for Tornado in his new purple tights. Virgil attacks before the bell, knocks Tornado to the floor, follows out, lays it in. Gorilla calls Virgil a henchman and a stooge, but he is locked in here, ramming Von Erich to the steps with authority. Kerry finally fends off Virgil, yanks him to the floor, unloads with a flurry of punches, throws him to the stairs. Virgil stalls a bit, then comes back and lands a shot to the arm. He keeps battering and twerking it. Virgil works an arm wringer for a bit, and Tornado eventually breaks out and gets a back body drop. Von Erich backs Virgil off and hits a suplex and another back drop. Kerry twists him into a Boston Crab. He releases that, goes to the claw, but Virgil blocks it, which Al praises him for, being adept to do that. Tornado keeps fighting for the claw, eventually gets it after Virgil can't hold him off any longer. Tornado hits a discus punch to the gut and then hits another one to the head for the win. Virgil extends his hand after the bell, but Tornado's weary and eventually shakes it. We get a pop. This is surprisingly fun. It was aggressive offense by both guys, a unique structure. Virgil really showed up here. Alan Gorilla talked him up, and it's clear they're starting to do something with him. We've seen DiBiase starting to abuse him more, and now here he's showing a little bit of, being able to stand up for himself. He shows some respect to Von Erich. Wrestles a very good match. Von Erich was focused too. He sold well and worked his offense. This is a pretty neat bout. I thought it was a good win for Von Erich. I went 2.5 stars, Steve.
Surprise of the night. Didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I thought the Tornado was really impressive, especially considering I know he only has 1 foot. I thought it was the right length. They didn't wear it out. Like you said, they were both very aggressive. I thought Virgil showed more than I would have expected him to. And again, this is one where it's not quite a 3. Maybe I would have done 2.75, but 2.5 is fair. They both did a great job, Respect to both of them. Good match. Good job. Way to show your MSG best in Christmas week.
Yeah, this wasn't bad. I gave it a 3 star. Oh, no. I had the previous match highlighted. Oh, my God. 2.5 stars, though. Your match time, 7:55. And I got to say, JR, we talked with, I think it was Peter we talked about this with a few times during this calendar year. Tornado actually had some sneakily good house show matches. If you have the right opponent, he actually wasn't bad in this match. He seemed lucid, so that's usually a start. If he's got all his marbles, then he's usually pretty good. And I was a little nervous when I saw these two because I'm like, oh, fuck, Virgil. Ugh, God. But it actually wasn't bad. We are seeing Virgil getting abused a bit, and the handshaking with Tornado at the end of the match kind of shows that something's on the horizon. But the match was fine. Obviously, finally, after the taping was like 5 weeks ago, Tornado was finally IC titleless. But it's funny because he actually ended up being a halfway decent wrestler, particularly in the house show circuit, than we probably remember. But for an 8-minute match, it was fine. It was a good first match to kind of get heated up again. We didn't have a long break in the middle, which we normally do. I guess maybe there wasn't anything to promote. Well, I think it could have promoted the January house show, but I don't remember if Fink does that or not. But the match was fine. Tornado really looked good for him. So 2.5 stars for a Tornado house show match is pretty damn good.
He's been motivated. Yeah. He's definitely worked hard.
He really has.
And like you said, we've seen some decent stuff here late in the year for sure from him. So it's, whatever. At this point, he's been a good pickup. We had the big moment at SummerSlam and some decent stuff with Perfect and now Virgil here. But we'll see. Obviously, that feud with DiBiase doesn't go far at all. Like, it seemed like it was setting up for something. I don't think it even really does house show stuff unless, I guess it would have been here, but DiBiase had the knee injury. So, all right.
And Gorilla does mention that DiBiase will not be happy with that handshake, which I thought was a nice little note there, He's
going to have to clean up some extra doo-doo shit when he gets home.
Yes.
Jimmy Hart's back out to booze. Talks about how the crowd saw something special in what Earthquake did tonight, and it's just the beginning. And also, Greg Valentine, he or nobody else, whoever threatened Jimmy and the Honky Tonk Man, sent him out to issue a challenge so the former Rhythm and Blues could take face off. Jimmy doesn't think Hammer has the guts to accept it and then cackles and heads out. So it seems like we're forging ahead with a potential Hammer face turn, and maybe, I guess, scheduled for our next MSG could be a battle of Rhythm and Blues. But as we know, Honky will not be around, so I guess those plans are shot. But it is curious, like that's kind of a feud we never end up getting. I guess we would have the explosion of R&B. All right, our next to last match of the night is an interesting one. Very random ass tag match here. As Dusty Rhodes teams up with Hacksaw Jim Duggan to take on Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan. It reminded me, Scott, of that match we had. Was it 89 that Garvin teamed with Jimmy Snuka? Remember that match? 89 or 90.
I do.
It might have been 90, actually. It might have been January 90. Was that your show, Bennett?
I don't remember. It sounds familiar.
It was Garvin and
January 90.
Yeah.
Snuka and Garvin versus Rhythm and Blues.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I gave it 3 stars. You gave it 2.5.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad match.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is like that. So Sergeant Slaughter and Adnan on the precipice of really going to the next level. Had started this feud with Duggan, of course. Dusty slides in to help Duggan. Takes a break from DiBiase. We also get General Adnan in the ring for the first time on TV. Good heat for Sarge. He's got the turban going now, too. Good pop for Dusty and Duggan as they come out. Nice to see Dusty in good spirits instead of being depressed and downtrodden at the hands of DiBiase. Dusty and Sarge start off in kind of a dream match, low-key. We get some stalling and playing to the crowd. Both Dusty and Duggan land some shots. They trade off tags and take turns slugging away. The crowd is into Hacksaw here as he hits a clothesline, sends him flying to the corner, over to the floor for the classic Sarge bump. Adnan helps him back in and shoves him inside, really, as Duggan slugs away. Dusty tags in and punches on Sarge and then tags Duggan. Hacksaw gets tied up with Adnan, gets knocked outside by Sarge. Adnan shoves him to the post and Sarge brings him back in. Adnan gets a tag and grabs a chinlock and taps him with some soft strikes. Sarge is back in as Gorilla talks up his big title shot at the Rumble. Sarge gets 2 on a backbreaker, misses a top rope knee drop, and Duggan dives for the tag. That kind of wakes up the crowd a bit. Interesting here that the arena is not usually as dark as usual, I noticed. You can kind of see a lot of the empty seats. Sarge gets pinballed around as Dusty misses a charge to the corner. He crashes to the mat. Duggan breaks up the camel clutch and heads back to the apron, but Adnan hits him with the flagpole. Duggan grabs a 2x4. He chases Adnan to the back and back inside. Sarge gets the camel clutch, and Dusty submits. And that's that. Rare there. Dusty really getting dumped down the stretch here, basically playing a jobber to the stars in this match. It would be like when, Ronnie Garvin would team with Mario Mancini or something on Superstars, where Garvin takes gets some offense and then Mancini takes the shit kicking. Dusty was basically the jobber in this team, submitting clean to the clutch to get no shine at all. Fine tag with some good heat, kind of disjointed. It's sad to see Dusty this far down. Think of where he was, Steve, when you were on last time in January 90, how hot that was with Savage to start the year, and now just completely falling off the cliff at this point as he's heading out the door. Sarge rolls on, Scott. I went 2 stars.
Yeah, I went... I went back to... I got to put my screen down. I was really sad with Dusty. This is really unfortunate. I don't know if there was rumblings that he was leaving or what. I gave it 2 stars. Your match length is 9:10. This is really sad. I wonder if there were rumblings that Dusty was going back down south to WCW and Vince was fucking him out the door.
I don't think there's rumors. I think it was 100%. Like that's what I think they do at this point. I mean, I don't think they'd be jobbing him out this hard if they didn't know he was out the door. So I think
how do you for one night not have Hogan and Dusty on a tag? I know it's Uncle Fred, I hate you, Tugboat. Hey, Dust. I just, it's sad. It's really sad to see Dusty go out like a bitch. Fucking Duggan, you douche. Leave your partner out hanging in the wind. I mean, Slaghter winning is not a problem. Obviously, he's got the rocket ship on him. He's got the title match in Miami on the 19th. So we're not, it's who he lost to is not a problem. It's the fact that it was just so, like, Pez Watley-ish.
I just felt sad. He barely got any offense, and then he submitted. Like, Dusty never submits. Like, have Sarge drop an elbow and pin him or something. It was just odd to see him, like, tap out, basically.
Yes.
But they definitely 100%. Knew he was leaving. I mean, the Rumble's in 20 days, and he's gone after that. So I'm sure he at least had given a 30-day notice by this point. I would think even earlier they knew he wasn't going to renew, is my guess.
I agree with you. I think Vince, because Dusty seems like a good business guy, and I'm sure he told Vince, listen, when my deal's up, I'm out of here. I'm going to go down and work backstage down there. So I just wanted to give you my notice. And Vince's like, hey, all right, Virgil, pal. So, anyway, I was a little sad, Steve, to see him job out, but for business purposes, it made sense. But Slaghter needed to win anyway.
Yeah, I guess I'm not as big of a Dusty guy as you guys, just because, I didn't watch a lot of WCW as a kid. I was very, very loyal to WWF. I did watch some of the Saturday night stuff when I was like bored at my dad's house or whatever, but I thought he went out like a champ, like with such great respect, and like that's what you do in the business. You're going out and you put the next champion over super strong. So I give him a lot of credit for that. You mentioned it being an interesting tag team. I think they did a really good job of shuffling the roster with DiBiase not being available with the knee injury. They use Virgil to carry that feud against Texas Tornado, and then they slide Dusty and Hacksaw together, create this tag. And I like the way that Hacksaw and Adnan cleared out for the big moment to happen. Just a really impressive win, which I kind of gasped when Dusty submitted. I didn't, expect it at all because, like, I think, Justin, you said he doesn't tap out, right? Like, I didn't see it going that way. But I give him a ton of credit as a professional for doing business like this, and I give it 2.5. I don't remember what you guys said, but yeah, 2.5. Like, props to Dusty. Like, that's a champion. Going out the door by putting over the next, WWF champion, super, super strong in their biggest building, maybe their biggest show of the year there. So, I don't know. I really liked it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Obviously, he's doing the right thing. I think it's more how he's been booked since, like, the summer. He's just been made to look like a bitch for like 4 or 5 months. So this felt like it almost meant less in a way by this point because of the way he's been treated. He looks stupid at SummerSlam. Survivor Series, the way he gets counted out. Science main event, he lays, he's getting the shit kicked out of him as he lays on his son. Like, he just hasn't been made to look good at all in months. So by this point, it was just more sad to me than anything. It wasn't like, wow, Dusty's been strong all year and Slaghter knocked him off. It was like, wow, he's just fucking jobbing out for the last 6 months, basically.
Do you think that Dusty and Hacksaw became friends because Hacksaw was so good to be looking for Sapphire at SummerSlam?
So you owed him
one?
Think
like that's where the bond?
Yeah, or Dusty just felt like he owed him one, because of the search party.
It's so big of him, like, we're looking for Dust, like, and it hit Dusty, and he's like, let's tag together. So I really appreciate that bond.
Or Duggan asked him for help. I looked for Sapphire. Now you have to help me. You owe me one.
Right, yeah. It's beautiful.
All right, time for our final match of the night, and it's a cool one. A very interesting one on paper. Stemming from our last show is Roddy Piper takes on Mr. Perfect, and suddenly the Intercontinental title is on the line. This stems from last show when Tornado was fighting Perfect and Piper was the ref. No Bobby Heenan tonight, so Perfect is flying solo. Big pop for Piper. He saunters out cooler than ever. We get a good stare down off the bell, then Perfect swats his gum and Piper spits his at Perfect. That leads to a throwdown. Perfect resets himself, eats a back elbow after hooking a waist lock. Piper heats up with a wild flurry of chops to knock Perfect out of the ring and onto the announce table. Piper drags him back in by his hair and throws him around by it. Perfect tries to punch Piper off, but Piper shoots him to the floor, follows with a series of fists and a chair to the head, which the ref lets slide. Piper's just beating the piss out of Perfect. He's stumbling and flailing around. Lord Al has issue with Piper's tactics, but they are working. Perfect is staggered badly, but is able to lean into a double clothesline to stall the onslaught. Perfect runs Piper into an exposed turnbuckle, and Piper rides and flops on the mat. Perfect gets a close near fall, then shoves the ref before booting Piper hard into the ribs twice at some nasty kicks. Things spill outside when Perfect runs Piper to the railing and then jams him in the face with a chair. Back inside, Perfect gets a sleeper, hangs on for a bit until Piper forces a break by running him into the corner. Both guys get up and trade blows, but Perfect hoists him for a suplex, and Piper falls on top for 2. Perfect gets a small package for 2 as both are emptying the tank. Piper hits a big knee lift for 2 as the crowd is ready to burst for him. Perfect catches him with a shot, loads the Perfect plex, but Piper kicks out at 2 for a pop. Perfect yells at the ref, and Piper rolls him up for a great near fall. Piper charges, and Perfect dips and dumps him outside. Perfect shoves him into the ring and heads up top, but Piper shakes the ropes. Perfect falls and crotches himself, falls to the floor, and gets counted out, and Piper gets the win for a huge pop at first, and then Piper gets the belt. Perfect grabs the belt and charges. Piper ducks him. They fight over the title. Piper wins and swings it wildly at Perfect and ref, but he misses. Perfect yanks on it and gets posted. Piper smashes Perfect with the belt and then celebrates. And I thought this was a lot of fun. The crowd loved it. Piper was manic. Perfect bumped like a maniac. It was really a unique pairing you haven't seen a ton of, and they delivered a real fun war. I liked the final sequence, too, as well executed. And, despite the fuck finish, which you knew was coming, Piper wasn't going to lose here to close the show, and he wasn't going to win the IC title. So it was a fun closeout to a weird show. I thought if we didn't have as many DQs and shitty finishes earlier, maybe this doesn't stand out. But again, it's another crappy finish on top of a bunch, but because of the charisma involved, it didn't hurt as much. So all that said, Steve, I went 3 stars. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I love this. Piper comes out like a boss. Loved the reaction he got from the MSG crowd. Perfect is my favorite bumper ever. I love watching him go upside down into the corner, and he's just so awesome. One of my all-time favorites. I thought Piper is using the slap really effectively in the match. The gum spot was just so cool. These guys are just awesome. And man, it was just so good. I really liked it. The count out was a little odd in the way that the ref keeps counting as Perfect is on the ropes, and you kind of expect him to break the count at one point, but he just keeps counting him out. It was just kind of odd the way they did it. No problem with it, though. Like you said, I knew Piper's not losing, and I knew he didn't win the belt, so I was waiting for something like that. I thought it was really good. I really liked it. I wrote in my notes comedy show analogy, but I forgot what the hell I was talking about. So that's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to tell you what that means. Chalk that up to old age, and I'll say 3.5 if I didn't say that already.
I gave it a 3.5 too. I love this match. It was a lot of fun. 12:38 your time. You got 2 pretty solid guys in there, very solid guys. At the time, seeing Piper in a title match is unusual, so it's a little juicy, probably a holiday gift again. But it was fun. I mean, the energy level was high. I think Perfect was enjoying taking on a veteran brawler and didn't have to be as technically sound. He could kind of have a little fun and go all out. Perfect's been great the last 6 months. We saw him, what was on that Saturday? Was it the house show? No, it was a house show where he fucking goes off and starts beating people with the belt and going batshit, and it was crazy. Perfect's been great. Piper looks amazing. I mean, it's the best shape he's looked in years. He looks great. And this was a great match to end the show. This was definitely very disjointed in terms of the matches, because the first half of the show was a big time slog. And this second half, we've really picked up, and the energy level has been through the roof. But it was fun. The crowd finally, got what they wanted. I think it would have been cool to see Piper win, the title, but obviously that wasn't happening. But you know what? Back then, fans didn't know any better, and hey, looks good. So Perfect looks good. He looks vicious. I feel we're going to see a different Perfect in 1991 than we did in the first maybe 2 years he's been with the company. I think he's going to be a little more violent, a little more possessive, and I think that's good. And Piper has definitely been an added asset to this roster. and JR, like I said, we've talked for months in 1990 about the roster and all the gaping holes in it. I feel like these last couple months, Vince has done a good job of kind of playing a shell game with the roster and guys leaving, guys coming in. We're seeing a lot of the fluff leave, like Honky and some of these scrubs that are pretty much worn out, for lack of a better term. And now we're getting to see some fresh faces. I think that's huge for the company and for the crowds. So fun way to end the show. Energy level was high. 3.5 stars for me. It was a fun show. A fun final match. Crowd went home happy for the most part.
The thing I was gonna say, sorry Scott, about the comedy show is, and let's just look at if you look at the singles matches on this card. When you go you get tickets to see your favorite comedian, Jim Florentine or Dave Chappelle or Dice Clay or whoever you love, and they have the guy who's the host, and they have the middle, and then the main guy comes out. When you're at the show, you're like that host, he's funny. And then the second guy, he's like, yeah, this guy's pretty good at comedy. But then when that main guy comes out, you're like, okay, this is how you do the art. Like, this is it. And I kind of thought of this match like that. Like, when these guys came out and did it, it's like, okay, that's how you put a wrestling match on. And, no disrespect to Hogan. And that was a tag match. It's a little different, too. But I just thought, these guys, this was the art. This is what we love about wrestling, the way, these guys do it. They are Hall of Famers for a reason, and they showed it here. So that's what I was thinking about when I was watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Piper and MSG is always going to be insane, and I'm sure it was a cool moment for Perfect to get to work with him there, and he really went all out bumping around for him. It was a great match. It was cool. I'm glad they did the backstory, too, last show. They didn't just kind of throw out this cold. They built to it because they added a little extra pizzazz by giving us a reason for them to be fighting it, for Perfect to be aggravated after Piper, fucked around with him back in November. So we do finish strong after a very shaky start to this final show of 1990. All right, let's get to our awards as we wrap things up here. Match of the night for me was Piper versus Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, the Hogan tag was good. But what a way to end the show. Just two veterans going all out, know how to do it, know how to tell the story. Yeah, definitely.
It's obviously one of the two. I'll go with the Piper and Perfect match because it's a singles match.
It's so different, too.
It's a way to break the tie. Yeah, it's unique. Yeah. That's the one. That's the one to watch if you could only watch one on this show.
All right. Cousin Junior for me was very easily Jimmy Snuka versus the Warlord.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Oh, yeah. Easy winner.
All right, Andre the Giant Award for the MVP of the night. I went with Piper. Hogan, I was close to picking Hogan. I probably would have on most shows because he was so over. But Piper standing tall to close the year was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I agree 100% because we don't see this very often. Not only Piper wrestling lately, but Piper being in a main event is very rare as well. So I definitely go Piper here, big time.
Yeah, I still went with Hogan. I mentioned The Sopranos earlier, and that shows the king, and Hogan's the king. It doesn't mean I don't love The Wire. I'll love The Wire. Piper's kind of like The Wire here, but I still like The Sopranos just a little bit more. I'm gonna give it to Hogan, just because he did everything Hogan does. He posed, he got carded, he's body slammed, he put the whole thing in, popped the crowd. So I still went Hogan there, just barely though.
Right. For the Bolshevik, newly christened Bolshevik Award for the worst worker, kind of an upset. It's usually Dino Bravo, but it is not tonight. I went with the Warlord, who I thought was abysmal in his match.
Yeah, he's a mess. He was a mess.
I have Black Bart written down, but I have no problem with Warlord. So I'll go with Warlord to go with the group.
Yeah, Bart just kind of did his thing. I mean, Warlord is fucking terrible. And he was supposed to shine in that match. All right, best moment, I went with the Earthquake attack on Hogan post-match.
It was amazing, I'm telling you. Keeping that feud hot, big time.
Easy, unanimous.
All right, Warrior Award for the most juiced up. We had some good contenders tonight.
Again, shit ton of contenders.
Again, Dino Bravo is edged out for me by the Warlord, who takes this award for me. And Bravo skates tonight. He usually wins all these, most juiced, worst worker, but Warlord outdid him tonight.
Rest in peace, Dino. Yeah, I have Warlord. Warlord didn't even look human. Like I said, he looks subhuman.
You know what? I got to go with Herc. I mean,
Herc is gross too.
Herc was a mess.
Yeah, he didn't look good.
I mean, he barely could take his fucking sweatshirt off. I mean, he's got like he's got 5 trap muscles. I mean, it's like he doesn't. I mean, he has no neck. His hair looked awful. I mean, he was twice as bloated as Warlord, and thank God that was a tag. What an ugly mess that would have been. Imagine 20 minutes if it was just like Warlord and Marty. Ooh, God. Brutal. Yeah, I got to give that one I mean, Warlord looked awful, but I got to give it to Herc. He looked awful, like drop dead awful.
All right, worst hair, the Rooster Award. I went with Jimmy Snuka tonight. Herc was another contender here too, but I thought Snuka's hair was disgusting looking.
Yeah, I went with. Sorry, Scott. It probably was your turn. I blew that. I wanted to give it to Jannetty, but he's fucking like every night in this era, like a different girl. So like who am I to like question his haircut? Because he's getting it in every night. So respect to that. So I'm gonna go with Hercules because he looked so stringy and gross that I couldn't imagine him getting any. So even though in retrospect it was a horrible outing for Jannetty's hair, I gotta scoreboard. He's got scoreboard on me.
I don't know. I mean, Snuka's hair looked pretty horrendous. I'm gonna go with Snuka. I've already trashed Herc for having a body of someone that's about to die. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on his hair. I'll give it to Snuka.
Okay. All right, Steve, listen, last time you were on, we had a shaky show back in April. Scott gave it a 4.5. I gave it a 3. You gave it a 4. Not terribly much better. We kind of did not really quite avoid the December doldrums, but thanks to a strong final stretch, we do, I think, avoid kind of worst of all time, which is where this was trending after that first half. But I went 4.5 out of 10. From the Hogan match on, this is a different show. But those first 4 matches were really, really bad. We were not looking good. This was looking like a Sheriff Pete special for a while.
I'll let you go, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say about this. Do you remember? I'm guessing you guys at least have one grandparent who's passed away, and if not all of them, I have one left. She's 86. But I was thinking about my Italian grandma, and she lived to. My great-grandma, actually. She lived to, 88. And, every time you went to her house, she had a pot of sauce, on the counter there, on the stove. And you ate sausage and sauce, and, she called it gravy. And all you did was eat when you were there, and it was amazing. And then it got to a point where it wasn't quite as good, but it was still Grandma's house. You looked around, and everything was still Grandma's house. It still smelled like her house. Mm-hmm. It had the weird decorations. The TV guide was still next to her TV stand with a plum pit that's been there for 2.5 days, and the sauce was there. Pit. Yeah, the sauce still wasn't as good, but it's this MSG show was like that for me. It had Hogan and it had Piper and it had MSG and it was Christmas week and it had Gorilla and it had Lord Alfred Hayes and I know it's not as good, but it still made me feel a certain way. I still felt warm about it, and I still loved it. So I'm going to give it 5.5, and I know that's a little high, sure, but it was like Grandma's house that last year. And, there's not a lot of years left sometimes, Hogan that drops off at 91, like you guys were saying. Sometimes you just got to appreciate what you have, and I felt that way with this show.
So what was your grade in that whole thing?
5.5.
What was the grade of your mom's gravy? Or your grandmother's gravy?
10.
Of course. Yeah, this show is not as bad as the last one Steve was on. No. I'm gonna pump up the good matches. I'm probably overgrading this a scoosh. I'm gonna give it a 6.
A scoosh.
A scoosh.
I thought that was high.
That's a Paul Bearer sized.
Yeah, I thought the back end of the show really carried the first. I thought other than Snuka and Warlord, the bad was not horrendously bad except for that.
I agree with that.
I think the back end of the show was not that bad. Warlord Snuka was fucking terrible. The tag was not that bad. The snap rope doesn't help, but it wasn't horrendous, even with misshapen Herc. But I think that the Hogan tag, The main event with Piper and Perfect, the whole Valentine stuff. The match might not have been great, but all the post stuff was good. I thought the last hour and 20 minutes of this show was highly entertaining, and I'm gonna weigh that a little higher than the crap at the beginning. So slightly better than 50%. So a 6 for me.
What a mock. All right, that'll do it. That wraps up 1990 for us. Been a hell of a run. We talked about it all night, Scott. All the shows we've gone through. Yep. Shaky year. The year obviously started off very hot, heading to Mania 6, and obviously fell apart a bit late with the lack of depth and Ultimate Warrior's title reign, which we've chronicled quite a bit. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a brand new guest, and we'll cover the Royal Rumble. Herb will be back, Herb Kunze, so we'll have some notes, and we'll see what 1991 brings us. We got a lot of shows in 91, so it'll be hopefully coronavirus-free by quite a bit by the time we finish 91. I was actually thinking, too, 90 was so long that when we did the build episode, I believe it's the only PTB episode, Scott, I've ever missed, because I was sick with my pre-coronavirus stomach bug back at the end of the year. So that's how far this year has taken us. But yes, we'll kick off 91 in 2 weeks' time. And be sure to check out everything else on the feed in that time as well. I'll have a new Body Press Air Lock coming over the next week or so. So be keeping your eyes open for that. Over the North-South Connection, I'd ask you just to subscribe to the feed on any podcatcher app. We had a really good week over the last 7 days. We had a brand new year that was Aaron, one of his best, I thought, really looking at 2003. Got into the era of Triple H in 03. And,
I'm sure he couldn't wait to do that one. It was very good, by the way. It was very good. I enjoyed it.
It's a great listen.
I don't know what kind of drugs you guys do over there, though. 11th seed for Perfect versus Bret Hart from 91 SummerSlam.
It was on the Bracketology show. We talked it out on the Bracketology show.
Insanity.
It's all explained.
No chance in hell.
All explained.
I had it in my top 5 on the list I didn't submit. That's in my top 5 matches ever.
Good show, though. Both those shows were good, by the way.
Well, not every list is right, Steve.
Crazy. Yeah, you guys made a mistake. It happens.
Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast. Jake welcomed Scott Shiflett to look at the April 29th 02 Raw, 5/22/02 SmackDown, which had Jericho versus Hogan on that SmackDown, and that's a really good episode there as Hogan's continuing his title reign. Carolina Dreamer, number 7. Chad looked at the summer of 87 as he works through his GWCW list. We had a new Extreme 3-Way Dance. Myself, Jenny, and D'Amato looked at Hostile City Showdown 1995, which had the first ever Eddie Guerrero-Dean Malenko showdown in Philadelphia. Lots going on with Shane Douglas there, too. And finally, I had my first installment of, I don't know how many, we'll see. My treasure trove. It was a quick list, and it's like 15 minutes. I looked at the Bret Hart-Bob Backlund match from July 30th, 1994 on Superstars. Kind of talked about Backlund's return and what the match meant for him and where things went after that. So I'll drop those in every now and then as I get the itch. But again, it's a quick listen. It should only take you, if you're making dinner, making some gravy on the stove, it should only take you through that 15-minute stretch. Steve, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to give a shout-out to two Place to Be Nation super fans. Calvin Crowell, my boy, I love him. He's a big fan, and he did a podcast I want to mention on Jenny's feed. And he was just amazing, just so honest.
A great episode,
if you haven't listened to that, find that. And Calvin, love you, buddy. Hope he had a little bit of a rough stretch a few weeks ago, and so I just wanted to give him a shout out. And also another Jersey guy, Hollywood Dave Rollins, a big fan of you guys. He's a nut out in Jersey, just a total nut, but in the best of ways. I want to give him a shout out too. The Sportscasters at sports_casters on Twitter. I just did an episode with Jeff Passan, who was on my very first episode in January of 2011. Back again, and he's taking over the world at this point. Pretty much, he's like the Woj of baseball, but not suspended. And we talked about the return, and we talked about Twitter a little bit and cancel culture, and we always have fun. We have a lot of chemistry. It was fun to have him on. And I have John Pessa coming up to talk about Yogi Berra, and Joe Buck is coming on soon to talk about what happened with golf at Fox. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, and Peter and I are planning a Adams Division podcast for August, where we do with SummerSlam what we did with WrestleMania on the last episode, where we make a 10-match card where you can only use one match from each of the first 10 SummerSlams. and you can't like use a belt twice, stuff like that. But we're working on that, and we should do it in August sometime. So that's all.
Thank you, Steve. Check out everything great going on over on the Place to Be Wrestling. Well, that you're at right now, Place to Be Wrestling Network. This show, which is always there because it's awesome. Have a busy week ahead as well. A busy week we had last week. JR mentioned it in the read. This week, we should have a new episode of Row 1 Seat 1. Our good man, Mr. Benzani. I believe, speaking of Jambalaya Jake, I think he, Jenny, and Tim will be having a new PTB NXT this week, too. New main event will be this week as well. Nate, Steve, and I will preview. Busy weekend next weekend in wrestling. Saturday is Slammiversary, and then next Sunday is Extreme Rules, or this Sunday's Extreme Rules. So we'll preview those shows, and then we will have our GWCW match pick segment. I have the shoe when I gave the guys a theme instead of matches, and I let them pick whatever they wanted for this theme. So we will talk about that this week on the main event. And this Friday, or this Saturday coming, will be the newest installment of the NWA Saturday Special. The Doctor and I will have another guest, and we talked about the NWA World Title some time ago. We did an episode about the highs and lows of Sweet Charlotte. We're going to start talking about the other belts in NWA history, the U.S. title, the TV title, the tags, stuff like that. So that series will begin. We won't say what belt it is, but we will start this coming weekend talking about the great NWA secondary championships throughout history. So that's it. Follow me on Twitter at PTB Podfather. Follow my Twitter every day because you never know when I'll pop up an anniversary tweet about this fine program. I had one over the weekend. I believe there's one today. I think I could still do it. Vengeance 2004 was Saturday. There's ones coming up next couple days. You can always check the end of the month because, WWF pay-per-views were always at the end of months. So keep checking. Go back and listen to some of the great shows that JR and I have done in the past because they're all awesome.
Scott, I'm disappointed we're not going to fight. Usually we fight. What happened today?
Well, you did. You've already said who won the fucking Super Bowl because you just can't let weeks happen. You got to jump ahead 5 weeks. But
goddamn spoilers.
It's called kayfabe, Steve. Jesus,
right.
For a guy who loves WWF, for Christ's sakes.
And no one would have ever known. I blew it. That
exactly.
was not a popular Super Bowl at all.
Exactly.
25.
Well, up here it was.
I want to mention real quick on Place to Be Nation on the website. I do like a playlist with Jenny and Matt every week, and right now we're doing themes. We got 2 for Tuesday coming up this week, which I'm really looking forward to. And we just did a live album and a greatest hits, and then we're ending it with songs only from debut albums. So I want to mention that. And also I'm doing the comedy theater, whatever that's called, with Andy soon. I don't know if you're supposed to say the movie. Theater. Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't say. I don't know if that's a secret.
No, don't say the movie. No.
Okay, yeah, but
stay kayfabe for once in your life, okay?
Yeah, but I always say I get no respect, and that's
so check it out. All the great stuff on all these awesome feeds.
All right, that'll do it. Like I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Facebook.com/PlaceToBeNation. Twitter, JT the Pod Guy. At Scott's at PTB Podfather. And at Sportscasters. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Everyone take care. Goodbye.
The sky is started and she's in my bed.